Welcome back to the Heartsfire Saga. This is the fourth of four prequels to my May the 4th game this year. This one is taking place 2 years after the Battle of Yavin, and it's titled The Avenger. Rebellions are founded on hope, they say, but this one is drowning in despair. The Death Star rules space, and the Alliance is grabbing whatever morale victories it can get. In orbit over Duro, the Imperial Star Destroyer Avenger is in spacedock, undergoing significant repairs by automated units, enslaved Wookies and enslaved Duros. Radiation levels are high, as whatever malady nearly took out the destroyer had nearly caused a reactor breach and has left the entirety of the crew to be evacuated while repairs take place. Most of the crew are even reassigned, and as Duro is not an Imperial stronghold, they are not even in the system. The Alliance forces see the Avenger as vulnerable, initially planning on simply destroying the ship. Another plan was proposed and adopted to make use of the skill sets of the Slicers and Privateers that are the Alliance's forces to steal an Imperial Star Destroyer. And tonight we've got 3 players with us, and we'll go through the normal introduction of who you are and what you're playing tonight.
Hi, I'm John from Red Dice Diaries, and I will be playing Mud Deglon this evening, who is a Duros slicer / cybertech. Like many Duros, he left his homeworld sort of enamored of the technology that was out there in the greater galaxy, especially when the Empire started putting the pressure more on his homeworld, eventually pretty much enslaving it. Through various means, he's found himself linked to the rebellion, where they've used his slicing capabilities to get access to restricted accounts, funnel funds to the rebellion, etc. But now he finds himself drawn back to his homeworld and the effort to either capture or perhaps destroy this Star Destroyer that's currently menacing his world.
Hey, I'm Jim. My channel is Jim the GM. That makes a lot of sense. And I run a lot of D&D. I run a lot of, I run a lot of Mutants and Masterminds. I've been doing a lot of 7th Sea lately as well. And it's a bunch of guys, people just getting together, having good games, having a fun time. And I'm playing the droid J3FO, typically referred to as Jeff. I am piecemealed together, nothing too outstanding, but I don't remember much from more than 2 years ago. I'm pretty certain that it was some sort of a memory wipe. I don't really know. Yeah, it's no point in really even talking about it, I'm telling you, because, well, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm good at building stuff and fixing stuff, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jeff.
Hi, I'm the Shadowcat, and I have a YouTube channel called Shadowcat. Basically, it's more or less 40k, 30k, Blood Bowl, and some gaming in there, like Shadowrun, Star Wars, etc. I am playing Shiissa. She is a Chiss Ace pilot. After the destruction of Yavin, she decided that her moral conscience was in offense with what the Empire had done, so she basically turned herself in and became a pilot for the Rebel Alliance, and this is how she's now flying missions like these with a droid who cannot remember his name, well, or what he can do, and a dolphin. Sorry, Duros.
Alrighty. With that, we'll get straight into the mission. The Alliance has managed to procure a tugboat of the make and model that is common in the Duro system. So you have a way of approaching the Star Dock and or Star Destroyer to board through whatever method you guys end up deciding you want to do. Obviously, the only oddball in any kind of approach you guys have is your Chiss, because I mean there are Duros that are part of the repair crew and there are droids that are part of the repair crew. So you two getting on board and blending in won't be hard at all. The chiss could be difficult depending on what method you decide on. So we'll start off with your planning. Like, what is your plan basically as far as what you guys want to accomplish before you even like go on board? Like, what is your game plan? What kind of gear are you, special gear are you planning on using, or whatever the case may be as far as that goes? So.
Well, I'd assume if it becomes necessary to sabotage the vessel, we've presumably got access to some form of explosives or something.
Yeah, they've got you some detonate charges. It's not. I mean, it's not going to be enough to like just outright obliterate the vessel, but
yeah,
properly placed, it doesn't take a lot. Especially if it's already damaged to some extent.
Okay, so as we're sort of sat around in this tugboat, and presumably we're discussing the plan as we're sort of heading towards the Death Star, one of those sort of planning montage scenes you see so often at the start of films. Mud Deglon is sat there, and he's obviously got quite a few sort of cybernetic enhancements himself. He's always got a sort of toolkit out that he's using to sort of check his cybernetic enhancements, and when he sort of breathes, there's like a very slight sort of tinny sound to his breathing. So I've probably used my tools to like make sure Jeff, our droid companion's like fully working, etc. Because I've got all the equipment necessary to repair myself and other entirely cyber people. So I'll be saying, well, if we need to sabotage this vessel, then perhaps implanting something in their computer systems rather than attempting to use cruder explosives would be a wiser move. They're good for a distraction, but this tugboat doesn't have enough room to store the necessary explosives to destroy an entire Star Destroyer.
That's a good idea, because the drive core would actually be a pretty good way to take out this vessel.
Indeed, if we could potentially, let's hope this doesn't become necessary, but if we do need to, perhaps we could set their drive core to overload itself and lock their coordinates to take them away from my home world. Obviously, we don't want to endanger any more people than is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely. Because what we could try and do is offer a fake overload to get areas empty.
I see. Setting off the early warning system to funnel people into the areas we want them in. That's a very good idea. One thought has occurred to me, though. Our metal friend over here, and he sort of like taps Jeff on the head with a hydro spanner, will have no trouble fitting in. After all, there are sure to be many droids on board, and I know that part of the reason I was selected by the Alliance for this mission is that there are also a large number of Duros in the workforce. Hardly surprising, they're drawing from the indigenous population of my homeworld. You yourself, my friend, are, and I mean this in the most polite way, you are somewhat, and I sort of look at the chist blue skin, distinctive.
Yes, well, we'd probably find some sort of flight crew lockers down there.
Indeed, you are the only member of your species that I have encountered in all my years, so I can't imagine that there'll be any more of your kind on board the Star Destroyer, unless we're exceedingly lucky, but I'd rather not to bank on that.
Or unlucky.
Yes, very true. Very true. My concern isn't so much with getting you a uniform, it's more with questions I sure to be asked about the tone of your skin, your species not being particularly populous, from my understanding.
Well, there's only a few of us out here.
At this point, I'm going to sort of thinking about what I know about ships and the sort of the uniforms that tend to be worn by like repair crews. In case we like really need an emergency, I'll be trying to think, if they have like welders or anything similar on board the ships, that wear sort of facial coverings, etc., and sort of gloves and that. So essentially, we could get one of those uniforms that might more fully disguise.
There's definitely going to be some arc welding and stuff with the level of repairs that the ship is undergoing and that sort of thing. So. There would be some hazard suits, basically, especially with the radiation going on. Like there should be some radiation protected shield suits somewhere you can get access to.
Would we have any access to appropriate clothing before we head on, or have we literally got to sort of hit the ground running and find any stuff like that when we get there?
The big variable, this is where you get to choose to spend a destiny point if you want, and say you actually have a radiation shielding hazard suit for her if you want. But otherwise, the reasoning I was going with not having it be part of the standard gear is that the Alliance wasn't 100% sure if the slaves were being given that, since they're slave labor. So it's not sure whether or not that would actually be a disguise or not for her. So
what after we have this conversation, I'll be sort of rooting around through what we've got on board the shuttle and not really finding any sort of suitable hazmat suits or like radiation suits.
Right.
I'll head back to where the others are and I'll say, well, it appears that we're going to have to find whatever disguises we need for you, Shisa, on board the vessel. So it may be wise for myself and Jeff here to go aboard the ship a short while before. If we can locate a uniform locker or anything similar and acquire a suit, we can then return to our vessel, hand it over to you, and we can all get on with the business at hand.
Yes, this is definitely going to be an OSP situation.
Jeff, if you don't mind me asking, what speciality engrams are you programmed with? What is your main function?
If it's broke, I can fix it.
And please don't say making tea and coffee.
No.
Okay, so you're a mechanic, a repair droid.
Yes, yes, I like that. I am a mechanic. Yes.
Excellent. Well, I myself have some knowledge of mechanics and repairing things, especially on board vessels and mechanical organisms like yourself. So it may be wise for us to try and blend in with that department on board the vessel, since if we have to bluff our way out, we'll be able to pass it off more easily than if we try and fit in as one of the other types of repair crews.
No problem. Yes.
Shisa, how about yourself? What is your area of expertise?
I'm basically a pilot, and I also fix up my own ship as well. So,
if you don't mind me asking, how tall is Shisa?
She's about standard female height, athletically built.
So I'll be sort of looking at you and I'll be like, well, I think you're a little too big to squeeze into a TIE fighter uniform. And so that's out, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have said that your piloting knowledge would have made you a natural fit for that. But we can perhaps pass you off as a navigation expert or something along those lines, or someone serving in an advisory capacity for the repair crews.
Yep.
Assuming we need to bluff our way through.
That sounds a good idea, as long as we have the right command codes.
Indeed.
All right. So with that, as you guys are like your little tugboats going through the system and whatnot, y'all are having this conversation in your little cockpit. You guys have now rounded Duro and are coming out of the shadow of the planet, and you see your first glimpse of the Star Destroyer that is hovering in space there. it has a small space dock that's like attached to the bridge area, basically. Not like the full ones like you would see like in Star Trek or like in the bigger things where it's not a construction space dock, it's a repair one. So it's attached around the bridge, and you can see where it's attached a couple of places where people would be entering from that direction. Attached to the space dock, you see a large, I can't remember what the exact model is, but it's basically a heavy transport that is typically used to transport sentient beings, a slave transport of some kind, that is attached to the other side of the space dock. You also see a couple of smaller freighters of various makes and models that are in the vicinity, and it looks like one of them is currently docked with the space dock as well, where they'd be unloading various parts and that kind of thing. The first image of the Star Destroyer is, of course, that impressive, like, awe-inspiring, fear-inspiring moment. But then you see the carbon scoring across the port side, and while it looks like most of the actual fitting to space damage has been repaired, the scoring is still there. And so it's very clear that whatever fight this thing was in, it was very close to just venting all of its essentials type thing. So you can see that it looks like the running lights are operational all along the borders of the Star Destroyer, to where clearly there is main power active, whether it's from the core itself of the Star Destroyer or being vented in through the repair technology. You're not 100% sure from this angle and without getting in there. So,
okay, have we been?
Can I?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, can I do a casual flyby? You know, just to see what we can pick up visually.
Yeah. As y'all are doing the flyby and through the area, making your way through, you can see there's about a dozen other of these tugs that are the same make and model as you guys. You can hear the chatter, but it's not a lot. I mean, it's basically everyone knows their mission or where they got to go, and they're just waiting in line for their turn to dock or whatever the case may be. It is very unusual for, at least from the Chiss and Duros point of view, because you guys have been involved at like being at Imperial held spaceports and that kind of thing, where it's extremely regulated, and you would have thought it would be extremely regulated around the Star Destroyer. But because of this tugboat you're in, so far you just are blending in with the other traffic around. Out of the immediate vicinity of the Star Destroyer, you can see off in the distance a pair of Imperial gunboats, a pair of custom frigates, and a modified corvette that are basic. Like that's the Imperial fleet in the system. And flying between them, you can see a couple of wings of TIE fighters, but you don't see any interceptors or bombers or anything like that.
Have we been given any sort of command codes to enable us to access? Have the Alliance been able to furnish us with any?
They were able to give you some codes that basically should give you access to the repairs. They said they don't know, like, this gets you into the repair system, but they're not sure, like, whether or not critical sections of the ship have more codes or not. But this, like, at least gets you docking codes to where you are supposed to be involved in the repairs in some way, shape, or form. So,
I suggest, Jish, that we join that queue of ships waiting over there, and we don't want to seem to be out of place.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So as you guys are waiting in the queue, you can hear the comm chatter where they're talking about that. Basically, they move who's in front of the queue a couple of times where they need to unload certain parts or whatever. Like they need more of this material as opposed to the material that was in the ship that was already there or whatever. It does not seem to be a super efficient method. And it kind of strikes you as odd that why would they not take a Star Destroyer with how much value it has back to a more secure system? And so it's a really strange feeling. I mean, like John was saying before we went on the air, you got a bad feeling about this. And it's kind of one of those things that your characters know enough being Alliance operatives, to know that this is very odd without really knowing why it would be playing out this way. You know what I mean? So I'm sure for some of you, at least, it would cause that uneasy feeling of uncertainty of, okay, this is, I mean, it just seems odd that this is how it's playing out. So,
are we actually carrying any sort of materials for the repairs so we can actually play up to our cover?
Yes, actually, because of the events of one of the other prequels, you guys have a supply of quadrinium, which is used in reactor core shielding by the Imperials. So you guys don't have a lot of it because you're a tugboat, so like it's not like you're a full-on freighter, but they got you enough to help maintain a cover and hopefully give you access to the core areas or some of the more important areas of the ship and that kind of thing. But they're not certain if there's additional command codes you'll need for that or not.
I suggest perhaps we send a standard communication over detailing our cargo, and perhaps add on to the end that we are bringing aboard a specialized repair droid to aid in the efforts. That may see us bumped up the queue a little bit, I believe the phrase is.
Yeah, Shisa will actually turn to the droid and she goes, you ready for this?
It's just nodding.
Sorry, just
all right. So when you guys send over that information, let's see here.
This is fate. I was going to say.
You can do it with a couple of different ways, depending on if you're actually trying to talk to someone. You would do deception probably, or charm, or if you want to do it with just automated systems, you can do it with computers probably. Sending the list over and basically asking for what you're, rather than just falling in the back of the line, finding out if you can be of further assistance or anything like that. So,
well, if it's a matter of anything to do with computers, I'm sure I can be of help, but I'm not really used to sending the signals on this sort of thing. So I leave the matter entirely in your hands, Shees. Or if you wish me to send the signal, I can do. I can probably send them a comprehensive and technical readout, which may help. But I'm not really the sort of personable type, if you understand what I mean. I'm more used to machines.
This is Repair Tug Tango Alpha Niner, Flower Power Air to dock control. We are requesting clearance to drop off specialized reactor cooling materials and a specialized droid for repairs.
all right. After you give that, at first there's a brief automated confirmation of message received, and then about 5 seconds later, a female voice that has there's definitely a core accent, but it's kind of diluted. Like they are from the core, but they haven't lived there in a while type thing. Replies, and she kind of has this bitter tone. He's like, yeah. I'm sure everyone thinks they're super important and that they've got the most important parts for this mission. Just wait your turn. And then you hear someone else break over the comm, like someone's shouting at that person. You said, did they say they have the reactor cooling material?
Yes, we do.
At this point, I'm going to I'll nod at Sheesh and I'll pick up one of those terribly retro headsets that they have on all Star Wars vessels and put it over my bulbous grey head, and then I'll say, we are carrying a G6-4B specialized reactor repair droid to deal with the immediate situation. We have uploaded it with numerous technical schematics to aid in your situation as a priority 1 repair call, and then I'll list off the ridiculous tech specs of an amazing repair droid. Probably not the one we've got, but
hopefully something rare enough that they won't identify it on site type thing.
That's it. Given I'm used to very talkable protocol droids and astromechs though, and this droid we've got seems to only speak when spoken to, I'm this might just be the ultimate droid.
He's not going to talk us into a corner, at
And
least.
probably halfway through the list, they'll probably get bored and say, "Come on, bring it in." Okay, no problem.
That's my hope. I'm just going to keep reeling off like technical specs to like blind them with science, effectively.
The female you hear her start to say, "You're given queue number set," and she's cut off, and like you can hear someone basically like grab the comm, like it sounds like someone's hand hits the comm panel, and it gets muffled real quickly, and then you can't really hear what's being said, but you can hear people talking, and then a moment later you hear another voice come over the comm. This one is a deep male baritone, and he speaks with a more backwater, outer rim, or even possibly wild space type accent. And he says, as soon as the current freighter disembarks from the repair station, you guys are next in the queue. There is a reactor issue going on currently that they need additional assistance with. So we're going to move you to the front of the line.
Roger that, Control. Moving into position to head in next in line.
All right. So it takes a good another 10 or 15 minutes before the current freighter has disgorged whatever materials it was in the middle of disgorging and disembarks, and you guys get to dock. When the seal is made and everything, and you guys get powered down to where you're able to make your way to the airlock, at the front of the airlock, when you're disembarking, there is a Navy lieutenant in Imperial uniform, and beside him are 2 stormtroopers, and there are 2 Wookiees as well that are standing behind them. And the Wookiees, each of them has like a hover sled type thing, the equivalent of a wheelbarrow or a pallet jack or something like that, basically. And as soon as you guys make your way off the ship, the 2 stormtroopers and the 2 Wookiees walk past you, heading on to unload the cargo, basically. The lieutenant looks between the 3 of you for a moment, and then uncertainly looks at the Chiss. Are you in command? And it is most definitely a question.
Yes, I am in command. She actually puts on a Imperial accent. I am in command of this vessel. I actually commandeered this vessel.
Well, this is most unusual. Follow me. And he turns and leads you further into the station, basically, as you're going. Oh, okay.
I was going to say, as we're following, just to lend a bit of extra sort of credence to the idea that our Chiss commanding officer is in charge, I'll lean a bit closer, and then just loud enough so that they can hear, I'll say, "Ma'am, do you wish me to give the specialist repair droid a final once over, just to make sure he's in tip-top condition for the necessary repairs?"
You did that about 4 minutes ago, didn't you?
Yes, that's very true, but the drive plasma is a terribly unstable thing, ma'am. I would hate to be negligent in my duties.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. And I'll make a pretense of sort of tinkering around with Jeff. I won't actually be doing anything else.
As you tinker with me, my head twitches. I look over and I go, I can do this myself.
That's fine. We need you to save all of your power for the repairs you'll be making to the drive. Then I'll turn back to Shisa and I'll say, "I'm still not entirely."
I love that moment because it calls back to Rogue One whenever K2SO is arguing with the stormtroopers, and they're like, "We're going to take you in for some diagnostics," and he's like, "I can perform diagnostics on myself."
As he says that, I'll turn back to Shisa and I'll say, "Ma'am, I'm still not entirely sure that removing 53% of his personality engrams to make room for the specialty repair routines was a wise idea."
My response is, I have 53% left. I didn't realize I had that much.
I was following orders, I'm afraid to say.
Of course, I didn't mean to question your orders.
The lieutenant actually gives like this wry chuckle. And he's like, "I pity you for having to drag those two knuckleheads around."
Well, they're very efficient, believe it or not.
He leads you to an airlock that leads to the Star Destroyer, and he says, the Wookiees will be right behind you with the equipment that you brought. If you need to lead your crew on about their mission, by all means. Otherwise, you can send them on into the ship, and you can wait with us in the command room here on the space dock.
To be frank about this, I do prefer to oversee their work myself.
He nods to that. He starts to say and then he cuts himself off and he like looks at the two of them and then looks at you again. Yeah, that makes sense. And with that, he just kind of gives a slight nod, almost like was gonna salute, but then just stops himself because you're not actually an Imperial officer. You're just a tugboat commander, basically. And all right, comm frequency is the same if you're contacting from within the ship, and there are several repair hubs inside. Be careful of the Wookiees; they are surly.
Well,
and with that, he just kind of turns. You can tell he really doesn't seem to care. He's like, I mean, it's one of those. This is monotonous. This is a bunch of repairs going on. He's dealing with this all day, every day, basically, of different crews of different kinds coming on, and he just doesn't care anymore.
Basically, different day, same shit.
Yep. All right. So as you guys make your way, coming up behind you guys, you can hear like the Wookiees kind of doing like this low, rumbly growl type sound, but it's not like aggressive sounding. It's just like they seem to be like growling to each other a bit as they're walking.
Looking at the Wookiees, is there any sort of obvious means by which they're being compelled into this servitude? Like, have they got like control collars or anything similar on?
You can see that on each elbow there's some sort of ring device. It looks kind of like a manacle, but normally manacles are bound together and attached to the wrist, but it looks like the manacle part that normally goes on the wrist, but it's on their elbows. You also see a cybernetic on the back of their heads where part of their fur has been shaved off.
Okay,
Something a slave collar?
Well, slave collar would be a collar. This is some sort of cybernetic actually implanted in them. So
I'll be trying to sort of, and since I've just got like large black eyes, it's not really easy to tell where I'm looking unless I turn my head. So I'll be trying to sort of pay close attention to these cybernetics. I'm fairly familiar with cybernetic technology. So in my head, I'll be thinking, well, if I was assuming that all of the other slaves are implanted with something like this to compel them into loyalty, if we could find some way to deactivate that sort of thing remotely, potentially we could gain a lot of allies on board the ship very, very quickly.
Indeed.
The exact model that they have, you're not familiar with. But the basic premise is something like, I mean, you've seen different technologies like the Hutts have used and that kind of thing, that it could be actually interfering with brain activity, or it could just be like an implanted explosive that if they don't obey, then it could sever their brain from their spine. So
okay, I'll be looking for any signs of like if it receives like a control signal from outside, because I presume they've got some way of like activating. You know, if like all the Wookiees rioted, they'd have the big red button they could press to like detonate them all. So I'll be sort of looking to that with the idea that maybe later on, if we could generate some sort of interference signal or sound like a shutdown code, we could
something to keep an eye out for, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. And following, like leading up to the airlock for the ship, the stormtroopers escort the Wookiees along with it. But once you guys clear the airlock, those two stormtroopers do not follow you in. So it's the three of you and the two Wookiees. as you get into the Star Destroyer itself. Inside the Star Destroyer, you're on this side of the airlock. You're met by another a Duros that's got like a mechanic. Man, I got the hiccups. A mechanic's uniform on, and there's also a Imperial security droid, much like K2SO, that is there as the security officer now, as opposed to stormtroopers. And the droid just kind of watches you as you guys come in, and he doesn't seem to really care about the Chiss or the other droid. He watches the Duro and the 2 Wookiees that are coming on board. All right, so you've got parts. Your covers that you're going to work on the reactor. Are you guys heading straight for one of the main reactors or a secondary reactor, or are you heading somewhere else?
I assume we'd be heading straight for the main reactor. You know, we don't want to blow our cover by sort of like mooching around.
Sounds good. Just wanted to confirm because you have the option of deviating from things.
Did we know which reactor needed the shielding?
You're not entirely sure. You know that the reason why the ship is in dock is that there is some sort of reactor problem. And I believe, if I remember right, the Star Destroyer Imperial Deuces have 3 primary reactors and like 7 secondary reactors inside. So, but they're all kind of clustered in the middle back area of the ship. So, I mean,
are there any sort of computer workstations like dotted about that I could potentially pull up a schematic of the vessel, so that we could then go, all right, okay, this is where the problem is. This is where we need to head. Sort of pull up like a
yeah, you
map
could do that. Sort of you could pull that up, or you could interact with the other Duro. Like potential ways to get that information. It's up to you.
Okay, so I'll look at the other Duro and then I'll say, in common, we were sent here to work on the current problem with the central reactor. If you could please direct us appropriately, it would be most appreciated.
He gives like this tired sigh, like he's been on his feet all day already. And he's just like, yeah, reactor problem. That's engineering's level subsection 32. You're gonna. Well, you got Wookiees with you. Never mind. You won't need to worry about that. And a droid. So he switches to the Duro language, though, and he says, you may want to steer clear of the section when you get there personally and let your Chiss or your blue-skinned Imperial get too close. And he gives like this sly grin, and whatever the equivalent of a Duros wink is, I don't know what the heck that would be, but he said that in Victories.
I'll likewise in my indigenous language thank him for this and say I've no wish for any member of my party to be injured. However, if you could pass the word amongst any of our people on board to ready themselves, that would be appreciated.
He looks at you.
And then I'm going to likewise give him the Duros wink.
Right. He looks kind of confused by the ready themselves, like, and it's kind of one of those. He's so tired that you could tell he registers that you're telling him something important, but it doesn't. It's not completely processing type moment. And he just kind of nods. And with that, you guys head deeper into the ship, and you still got your 2 Wookiees pushing the space wheelbarrows behind you, full of quadrinium and your toolkit and that kind of thing. The K2SO droid follows the Wookiees as they and keeps an eye on them, basically.
Yeah, was it? There's about 6 reactors on a Star Destroyer. That's including the main one.
Yeah, they've got a lot of them.
Yeah, too many to count.
And it
Okay, yeah.
varies a
So
bit with different models. I think of the Star Destroyers and their various models much like American aircraft carriers. Even though like you've got the Enterprise classic carrier, no two of them are completely identical because like technology is always advancing and that sort of thing. So I imagine even though you may have an Imperial Deuce class of Star Destroyer, like if it was made at this shipyard versus that shipyard, there may be slight variations even within that.
as we're sort of going along, as with Access's terminal, would it be possible for me to pull up a list of like the current ship's complement, just to get a rough idea of how many people there are on board?
Yeah, give me a computer's check.
Okay. All right, so let me check my instructions. Right.
It's going to be difficulty. Okay, so accessing the computers of a Star Destroyer without the codes would normally be difficulty 3 and 3 setbacks for their encryption, but because of the damage that this ship is currently repairing from and the number of people coming and going, I'm going to give you 2 boost dice. So
okay, I also get an additional 2 boost dice because I've got a from my various talents and equipment that I've got.
Right, and you may have like Code Breaker as well that lowers setbacks and it lowers the difficulty, I think. So
yeah,
the base is 3 purple and 3 black. So
okay, so I'll reduce 2 blacks and then I've got 4 boost. Okay.
Okay.
So let's roll 3 proficient dice. And it was, sorry, how many purple was it?
3 difficulty, and I think you said you knocked it down to 1 setback.
Yeah, and I've got 4 boosts. Okay.
It's got to have the square brackets around that.
All right, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
No space.
So I mean, I get there eventually.
Yeah, that's the thing with bots is they don't cooperate if you don't give them exactly what they want to hear.
Wonderful.
So 5 successes, 2 advantages. You definitely get into the system, and you're trying to learn the current complement or at least a close estimate of it.
Yeah, I mean, with those successes as well, if I can get a sort of breakdown of the species type, there's 50 Duros and 2 humans.
There are, according to the current records, it says there are 137 Wookiees on board. There are an estimated 200 Duros on board, and the rest of the it says there is a let's see here, security contingent of 50 K2SO droids that is providing security for the operation. It does not list how many different repair droids are involved, because there's all sorts of different models and breakdowns of different repair droids, astromechs, and just little tinkers and mouse droids and gonks and everything. So I mean, like, you know that there are going to be a lot of droids involved as well if that kind of thing's going on. So
yeah.
The one thing that does catch
real personnel,
there's a precise number of Wookiees, whereas there's an imprecise number of Duros.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, so I'll carry on with the others towards the reactor that we've been directed to.
Along the way, you find you pass by different workstations and whatnot, different systems being repaired. Since y'all are heading towards the middle, it's going to be mostly like power conduits and redundancy systems and just hull plating being replaced and repaired and that sort of thing. Decking. There's a couple of times that even though you got the schematic of this thing, you come to a spot where like apparently something tore into this ship enough that like this whole corridor's floor is gone. So you have to like backtrack and go around, up level, down a level type of thing to get around the damage that's still being repaired in some sections. That happens probably a couple of times as you're making your way from the bridge area where you came in, the upper levels towards the engineering compartments.
She also will say something along the lines of, why the hell haven't they told us that these sections aren't even accessible?
I don't know, man. Perhaps a breakdown in communications.
She'll then turn to the droid and well, not our droid, but the K2SO droid. Why aren't we being informed that the breaches in the gangways are not? You aren't telling us this. You're just letting us walk into here and waste time, and allow the shielding of the ship to be severely withdrawn.
The droid's response is, my programming is to provide security. I do not have access to current technical readouts.
Well, you would have thought that whoever gave you access to security would actually tell you about these as well.
His response to that is, I would not think that would be necessary information. They clearly agreed. So you are wrong.
Okay, so what happens if a few of these Wookiees, go down there and don't come back?
Go down where and don't come back?
Are pushed off by a droid accidentally and are never seen again. And you lose your work, of course.
Well, if they are alive, we would find them. And if they were dead, then they are dead. And they would be found eventually, either by us or by the returning crew. And then he kind of gets like this, like there's a slight stammer, and he's like, well, I mean, eventually they would be found.
Yes, after a week of horrible smell, yes.
Whilst this conversation is going on, I'm just going to be sort of generally like pacing backwards and forwards, looking like I'm trying to decide what to do. But actually, I'm going to be sort of having a look at the K2SO droid as I'm sort of walking around, and I'm trying to sort of get a bead on where its power supply is located.
Okay.
Because this would actually be a very good distraction.
Knowledge warfare, I think, would be the best choice, but you could also do it with perception at a higher difficulty. Because knowledge warfare would be knowing about the schematics of this particular model.
Would I potentially be able to use mechanics for it?
I could see mechanics. It would be at a higher difficulty as well. Especially since you're trying to evaluate this without like just taking one apart. I mean, there's no doubt in your mind that if it was powered down and you were trying to figure it out, you could figure it out. But
okay, yeah, I'll make the roll with mechanics at the increased difficulty then.
Okay, so let's do. I'm going to call that difficulty 4. It's a daunting task. It is kind of a bulky military droid.
Would I give a boost due to distracting the droid?
Not really, because he's trying to. Maybe if he was doing perception, but with mechanics, I don't really see how him being distracted is, because you're just trying to puzzle it out in your head based on what you can see, basically. But I will make it where the distraction makes it where you don't have some setbacks due to trying to like evade his notice and that sort of thing. So
okay, so it's just 3. So it's my 3 proficiency versus 4 difficulty. Is that correct?
Yep, sounds right.
I have not got one clue where this power cell is. It could be in its big toe for all I know.
Yeah, so you failed, for our viewers, failure with 5 threats. So, what kind of armor are you wearing, or do you have armor? Is it just like mechanics clothing or something like that? Or
as far as anyone looking at me would be aware, I'm not actually wearing any armor.
Okay. Let's see here.
I'm just wearing your dirty overalls and jacket.
Right. So as you're looking at this droid, trying to figure this out, you're fairly certain that, I mean, it's a military droid, so you would expect it's probably in like the torso area somewhere, but you're not really sure, and whether it's accessed from the front or the back or top. varies too much with the different models and whatnot to feel any kind of confidence that you could deal with it quickly and discreetly. So
my actual original thought that was going through my character's mind is one of the abilities I have, thanks to my sort of cybernetics and my talent, is I can effectively drain energy out of something and shift it into something else. So my original thought was, if I could locate his power source and like drain the energy out of it, I could effectively power him down. But I'm sort of looking around and I'm like,
you're not sure. As you like look at it, you're just like, it might work, but I mean, it is clearly a security droid, so the attempting and failing would be very, very bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that much you're certain of.
I'll sort of hold off, because originally I was thinking, if I could get a bead on the power, I think I'd probably go for it. But being not so sure, I'm like, it might be better to observe a little bit more and sort of play along with our facade for the moment. I don't want to put myself or my companions and the mission at risk.
And as you guys are continuing along, having that conversation and evaluating that idea, you finally make it to the engineering section, at least. Not necessarily the exact deck you want to be on, but like you're in the section. And the noise level picks up quite a bit, because you now can see a few dozen beings working on various things. There are 3 other K2SO droids in this large engineering bay that you can see. Like, one of them's up on an overhanging walkway where he can see down, and then there's 2 others at various entrances and that kind of thing. The Wookiees they all have the shaved back of their neck with this implanted device, and they all have these rings at their elbows. The Duros do not have anything quite that crazy going on. It appears that the Duros have typical slave collars around their necks. Nothing quite so as eccentric or unusual looking as what the Wookiees have on them.
Is there a chance that I can that I might recognize this type of gear? Is it, like, maybe be able to decipher whether it's some sort of implant for to be helpful or to explode? Should they?
From what you can see on the outside, you can't really tell. Both of those are there is technology for both of those as far as cybernetics that would be implanted in that location. There's also just incapacitating things that would just like short out their spine temporarily, like strain damage, that kind of stuff. So there's quite a few varieties. There's basically, it's one of those things. There's too many varieties that could be used, and there's not standardized models for a lot of it. So these are all standardized. Clearly, they all look pretty much identical. Very, very slight differences in either positioning or shape, but those changes you guys can kind of evaluate are based on the differences in body shape and size of the Wookiees involved.
Okay, since we've had time to look at these control collars, certainly on the Duros, which are the more traditional control collars, is there any obvious signs of sort of like the mechanism that would be used to remove them? I mean, do they effectively have like a button they press and they unclasp them, or would we think it's some sort of like signal that would be sent to them via like a handheld device?
They have, like, on the back of the collar, there is a small notched panel. And the typical thing on this style of slave collar would be a pass key of some kind that you would enter in. These do not have a pass key. That portion has been replaced, and there is rather than the flat panel that you would normally see on a slave collar, there's a raised half circle, basically. And when you get a chance passing by one of them, you see that through the center of the half circle, there is a small hole. So it looks like some sort of key, or the first thing, or the thing that comes to mind after, because y'all are all Rebel Alliance agents, is that some officer's code cylinder might be the key. The proper officer might be the one that can do that.
Okay.
And that, I mean, realistically, with the nature of what these Duros are doing, and the fact that you know that most of the crews of the ship is out of the system, I mean, it's possible that the particular officer that can unlock these is not even in this system at the moment.
Yeah.
So you have no way of knowing without actually trying to slice one of them, and the bad stuff that happens when you fail dismantling a slave collar is bad.
See, I'll be thinking at the moment that potentially if I could get a closer look at one of them, I could have my data spike like counterfeit the control signal that would come from the command cylinder. But again, we're going to have to look at one in more detail and, like you say, the potential consequences.
The one thing that you do notice, while the Wookiee implant could be actually modifying behavior or either by direct input or by just behavior modification through the threat of explosives or whatever, the slave collars are less direct in their methods of control. They're just on, and as long as someone's doing what they want and doesn't pass certain direct areas that they're supposed to be in, it does nothing. Like, they're just there. I mean,
okay, so
but they may be proximity based. Like, they could have proximity, or I mean, there are dead man switches for a lot of slave collars, like if you disobey too much or whatever. But
okay, so knowing that Wookiees are sort of famed throughout the galaxy for their, let's put it politely, short tempers.
Right.
What I want to do is, at some point as we're sort of moving through this compartment, I want to effectively accidentally stumble over like a bit of kit that's been left lying around, like an exposed control panel, and effectively stumble and fall into one of these Wookiees, with the idea being that if he gets like really irate and behaves like a typical Wookiee, I'll be like, oh, probably not controlling his behavior. Whereas if he's all like zombie-like and just ignores it, I'll be like, oh, they probably are controlling his behavior.
Okay, try to get an idea and evaluate that. So, for that plan, I'm either going to say that is either skullduggery or deception, most likely. Although I'm open to other possible skills, depending on what you can think of as ways you can explain.
Okay,
trying to evaluate that.
I'm quite happy to go for either skullduggery or deception. They're both the same for myself.
Okay. So yeah, let's go with deception then, because how convincing are you that this was an accident and that kind of thing, and staying out of sight of the K2SO droids to where you can just get this information, hopefully, without giving it away. I will say that it's difficulty 2.
Okay.
And then there's going to be at least one setback die from just like the complexity of what you're going for. But if you want to attempt to do it where you're completely out of the sight of any of the K2SO droids, then 2 extra setback dice. Then that's up to you whether you want to take those on or not.
Okay, I'm not going to do it out of sight of them, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not actually attempting to do anything subversive. I'm just going to be like, oh, I've tripped and I've fallen into this Wookiee. So if they see me, I'm not bothered. It would in fact be more convincing. Whereas if I'm trying to be surreptitious, it'll look dodgy if I do get spotted.
Fair enough.
So I'll just go for the 1 set. So 2 difficulty, 1 setback dice.
Is there any chance of me being able to aid him? Maybe going over and distracting the security droids.
Probably not, because he's not discussing this plan. He's just looking for an opportunity and acting, basically, type thing. So.
All right.
All right. So
everything's cancelled on my roll.
And there's a group that I've been playing with recently that has introduced me to this house rule that I really like, and it's called We Hate Washes, and so it's called escalation. And what they do is anytime there's a complete wash on a roll, that you re-roll the dice pool with an extra boost and an extra setback. So that the story doesn't stagnate. Like, something happens when you make an action roll, basically.
Okay, so it'll be difficulty 2, 2 setback, and a boost. Is that correct?
Yep. Okay, so not much happens, just a thread. All right, so when you go for your move, you kind of stumble a little bit, and you bump into the Wookiee as you kind of fall. And I'm going to actually say, like, you'll take 1 strain from the threat, And basically, we'll say the reason why you failed because of that is actually like when you fell, you actually like clanked your noggin a little bit on something, and it wasn't enough to like give you a full-on concussion or anything like that. But it basically kind of makes you wince at the exact moment you needed to read what his reaction was. But whether it was zombie-like or briefly intense, you didn't see, but within the seconds before you get yourself back up, he is already kind of giving like this as he's like muttering almost to himself as he returns to his work. So like you did not get the flash of immediate reaction that would give away which one it was.
However, he wasn't just completely sort of like zombie.
Right, he didn't go to shit on you. So like,
yeah. So I'm uncertain. I'm like, oh, good, he didn't beat me to death like my own arm.
Right.
So, however, he did growl. So I'm like,
one thing I will say that you can kind of discern from that is that most likely whatever the device is either directly modifying his behavior, or the threat of it is high enough that he's not even willing to risk. Like, so you probably eliminate like just the stun type devices from what you think is involved, because if it was just a stun thing, if he was upset enough at you, he'd take the stunning basically with their stereotypical behavior and whatnot. So
I'll be standing up and dusting myself down. I'm like, very sorry about that.
He just keeps like without knowing Shreewook. It's kind of one of those, you're not sure if he's like bitching about your mother or grumbling about the supper, or like I mean, just talking like you're not sure, but like the tone is a little uncomfortable coming from someone that's literally probably twice your size as far as like weight.
She used to turn around and go, "Oh, please tell me you've not been drinking again."
No, of course not, Commander.
Well, take your word for it this time.
All right. So as you guys make your way through, you actually see, you finally get to the point where you can see there's a sealed off bulkhead type thing, like you know how in like plague movies they have those makeshift sealed clean room areas.
Mm-hmm.
You got one of those that's been constructed like in the middle of the engineering bay, and it's not on your schematics, but you realize that it's actually positioned such that it's going around this secondary reactor. And outside of it, you see several radiation protective suits that are out here. The radiation protective suits are all Duro size. You don't see any Wookiee size ones. But you do see a couple of Wookiees in the immediate vicinity of this that look more bedraggled than the others that you've seen, and a couple of them that are showing early symptoms of radiation poisoning, like their fur is kind of matted and clumped.
Falling out.
They look even less energetic than the others and that kind of thing. So the Wookiees clearly are still doing some of the heavy lifting labor-wise on the inside, but they are not being given radiation suits to do so.
Jeff, could you please scan for radiation levels in the compartment beyond?
And in this one as well, please.
No problem. And I will lean up against whatever door wall, scanning, and step back. Go into the next room, looking like I'm looking around.
Did you buy the handheld scanner, or have it built into your armor or cybernetics or anything like that?
I do.
Okay. So give me, I believe that's a computer's check for that, or a perception check, depending on which way you want to go about it. I could see either one of those being used.
Okay.
Probably with you, it's a computers, because that's an Intel-based thing and you're a mechanic, so I would expect that to be decent for you compared to perception.
Yeah. Is it versus anything?
Difficulty 2.
Okay.
All right, so outside the compartment here, there is some residual of radiation, But I mean, there are inhabited planets that living on the surface has a higher level of radiation. Like it's mostly under control, but there is some. Like it's one of those things that. But the exposure level. What's your intelligence?
3.
Okay, based on what you know about Duros, considering one of your companions is a Duros, you're talking like weeks, if not months, of exposure would have to happen in this in the outer compartment before it would be dangerous. Even
would it maybe have anything to do with the implants?
No.
Okay.
No. The as far as your scan for through the wall on the other side of the this makeshift bubble, the radiation levels are such that for a Duros, you think that they would be lethal with about 8 to 12 hours of exposure, and that more than a handful of minutes would be detrimental, but not lethal until 8 to 12 hours. Obviously, based on the fact that there are some Wookiees out here that are showing symptoms of radiation poisoning, clearly it is at least detrimental to Wookiees at some level, but you're not really familiar enough with their physiology to be sure as to how much they can handle. So, yeah.
And I will share this information. This is not going to be good for you in the long run. By long run, I mean the day and you'll die.
Wow.
They must have been around this for a long time, and I gesture my head toward the Wookiees.
Well, luckily for me, I've already replaced a lot of my terribly inefficient biological organisms. In fact, Jeff, I probably have more in common with you than a lot of the people on here.
Logic might state that you, having less organic, would take less time to, well, die.
Indeed, however, the organics I do have are very, very well shielded, Jeff. But I thank you for your concern.
Anytime, friend.
All right, so it's clear that they are repairing and fixing the reactor, which makes sense, especially since they jumped you to the front with the quadrinium, since that is specifically a material that's used in fabricating reactor shielding. So they basically, the two Wookiees that are pushing the wheelbarrows, they help you unload your toolkits from it. But then the raw quadrinium that's with them, they go through the shielded area and take it inside to where the people that are on the inside working on the reactor itself can start utilizing that to do its job.
I'll start climbing into one of the Joros size sort of radiation suits.
Okay.
And I'll assist however
Now, as y'all are getting ready and making your way through here, your chest is getting quite a few odd looks. Like people, you all pick up on it. That even our clumsy droid is noticing that the Duros, the Wookiees, they all are quite puzzled by, one, what the heck the Chiss is doing, and two, what the heck the Chiss is doing here, and three, what the heck is a Chiss? Like they're rare enough that they're like, there's a blue-skinned human-ish thing that is here. And the thing is once y'all have boarded the Star Destroyer, all you've seen are droids, Duros, and Wookiees. You haven't seen a single Imperial human on the Star Destroyer itself. So the Chiss stands out way more than even you thought they would, like with y'all's planning. Because she's clearly not a slave or a droid. Or at least not a slave that any of them are familiar with. So when you start suiting up to go inside, what is our Chiss friend doing? Like, what are you going to do during this process?
You're on mute.
I think you're muted or something. Yeah, you're muted.
Derp. Yeah, Sharissa will probably be actually reading the surroundings, the job list and how it's supposed to go.
All right, give me a either mechanics, knowledge education, or if either of those are bad, you can go with perception. Any of the three, as you're looking over the list and trying to discern like what all's going on and what the scheduling means and that kind of stuff.
Is there any chance I can give a boost dice because I've got sort of like quite high mechanics and computer skills?
Probably not in this case because you're suiting up and she's looking over the work list. Cool. I think.
What's the difficulty?
If you go with mechanics or education, then I will say it's difficulty 2 with 1 setback. Perception, I'll say, is difficulty 3 with 1 setback.
Okay. And it spells pads. Okay, here we go.
2 successes. Nice. And was that education or mechanics for you?
That was mechanics.
Okay. So as you're looking over things, the exact timeline seems kind of random to you, but you can definitely discern easily enough like what is actually done and what is still left to do as far as the repair schedule and that kind of thing. It appears that they have stabilized the systems. They're no longer worried about the reactor like actually just exploding or anything like that. And it appears that the entire ship as a whole is now safe against the vacuum. It's been vacuum sealed again. There are decks like you guys passed that are still being repaired. And the radiation shielding around this reactor is still in the process. The main thing you learn is that all the essential stuff is done in the repairs. Now they're just finalizing and making it habitable for the crew to come back. The timeline that you see seems to indicate that repairs like to be finalized is going to take another 4 or 5 days for the repair crews to like get everything to where things should be tip-top shape again. The information you find says that the crew of the Star Destroyer is returning in 6 days.
Right. She'll take out one of her comm units and plug it into her ear, and on a private channel to her colleagues, she'll go alpha testing 1.
Okay.
And just nod.
Okay. Yeah, she'll basically relay everything in Chun, which is her native language, because she can, get it out faster than thinking basic.
So she starts talking.
I'll be like,
you suddenly start wondering if the airlock you step through to go in and look at the reactor is like distorting the communications or something, or the radiation, one of the two.
And she'll just, in a low voice, repeat herself, but in basic as well. Crew ETA 6 days. Ship is vacuum packed, ready for possible no atmosphere leaks. And she'll just basically give the rundown like that.
Okay.
Okay, as soon as we start getting the
pop in your mind as she runs through some systems for you, John.
Yeah.
But basically, as y'all talk it out, as you're starting to look over, like you're in the secure area, like the shielded area, and based on what she's telling you with what you're seeing, the ship could fly now. Obviously, the more time you're willing to wait, the more stuff is repaired. But there's also risks. The more time you wait, the more chance there is that you guys are discovered, or that more of the slaves die and that kind of stuff. So, but it could, you could take it now and the Alliance would have to do some repairs still and be dealing with the same problems that the Imperials are currently dealing with. And this part of the engine may be off limits and that sort of thing.
Based on my knowledge of these ships, obviously normally the sort of the navigational array and the controls to actually fly the ship are normally fairly far removed from the sort of the compartments that we're in at the minute. We're just in sort of like the business end of the ship, effectively. Do I believe it, or would I be able to find out if it would be possible to reroute effectively the navigation controls to like the console in this drive room? Because at the minute I'm thinking if we effectively lock this area off from the rest of the ship and then like seize control of the controls.
Okay, so you're talking about rerouting things to the radiation flooded area and then controlling the ship from here?
Yeah.
It's definitely possible. It would not be easy. The biggest problem with that is that the only security forces on the ship would not care about the radiation.
Yeah.
So, like right now, your CHIS can't join you and help you from here, from if you go with that plan. And the KTOSO droids could just storm the area. So while that is a possible option, tactically it may not be your best option. So.
Okay, so as we're sort of like looking at everything, I'm going to walk over with like my data pad to our CHIS commander and say, "Oh, here are the tactical readouts that you asked for." But basically on this control pad, it'll have like a load of technical blurb, and then underneath it will say may be able to reroute control of the vessel to this compartment. However, would need to deal with security droids first. But it'll be set up so when you sort of page down, it like deletes that bit.
Gotcha. Way of communicating without talking, basically. Yeah, so as you guys look at it, I mean, you can tell that, I mean, there's a couple of different warring factors for you, obviously. Like, with the mission being to steal the ship, you know that it's possible, like, the ship is at least able to leave the system. You can hyper jump wherever you want, basically. It looks like while the ship is not pretty at the moment, and there are certain areas that you would just say are off limits to people at the moment, it is functional enough that once you get control of a control console somewhere, you could give it all the commands necessary to leave, and it's able to do so. The barriers are the security system and how fast do you want to do that, because the sooner you do it, the less danger the Wookiees and Duros are in, theoretically, to the radiation and that sort of thing. The longer you wait, the closer the crew of the ship is back to being back and ready and that sort of thing, and the more likely you guys are to get caught with time. So,
what is it going to take to take care of the radiation?
Well, they're putting the shielding in place. Based on what the CHIS looked at, they're estimating that it'll be about 3 or 4 days worth of labor to finish the radiation shielding repairs. So it's mostly just time and labor that's necessary for all the stuff that's still left to be done, basically.
As Shiessa is actually, reading through the pad, she's actually now going to type into the pad possible micro hyperspace jump to in between systems, wherever we are to wherever, and she'll hand the pad back to Mud.
I'll look at it, and I'll obviously, as I read it, I'll delete the information, and I'll say it'll probably be necessary for us to reroute a number of secondary systems to deal with that specific type of radiation, Commander. And there may be unforeseen problems.
Also,
and I'm going to sort of nod at the security droids as I say that.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you guys thinking at this point? I mean,
can we corner a security droid?
Probably.
I presume it's not too difficult for us to all actually sort of like cluster together, because obviously we're under the rules that we're sort of working on this area.
Right. And actually, like if you find something to be working on, basically, and choose something that doesn't have Wookiees or slave Duros assigned to it, then the K2S droids aren't like hovering nearby even, because they're there to oversee the slaves. So
Okay, now based on my sort of knowledge of like standard droids, I mean not these specific models, but just like your standard run-of-the-mill security droid, if there were an explosion sort of like at the far end of the vessel, what would the likely security protocols be? I mean, would the droids sort of all head to that area to investigate, or?
It would depend on if they have security or if they were more like prison type droids. As far as the programming went, if they were security based in things, then at least a contingent of them would go to investigate whatever disturbance there is. If they are more prison programmed, then their first task would be to lock down and group up their Wookies and Duros. So
Okay, so
those are the
as
two
I'm
most
sort of
likely programmings you can think of.
as I'm huddled together with my companions, I'm going to sort of hold open my jacket, and on like the inside pocket, there's a small sort of like a bit bigger than fist size sort of metal sphere. It's effectively like a small sort of like camera droid
Okay.
that I'll show you in the pocket, and I'll in a very low voice I'll say, if we did need a distraction, given some of the supplies we brought on board with us, that I could attach to this camera droid, I could potentially have something occur elsewhere in the vessel. But as of yet, I've not determined whether the programming of these the security droids here would lead them to lock down the compartment or go and investigate. Although there doesn't seem to be any additional security beyond the droids, as far as I've been able to ascertain.
Are there any handheld comm devices anywhere?
Handheld comms? No.
No.
You assume you don't see the droids aren't carrying any comms at all. That's probably all internal for them. And the prisoners, like if they have to communicate, there are like the tabletop comm units that would normally be long range communications, possibly like that size of device, the backpack size comm units, and those are stationed. There'll be like one kind of central to like a group of like 3 or 4 of the K2SO droids. And every once in a while, you'll see like a Duros will walk over to one of them and comm to somewhere else on the ship. Like, okay, we turned this power conduit on. Is it working on your end type thing? So there is communication going on between them, but that's not one of them carrying around the comm units.
Okay, so as I'm sort of at one of these
have,
computer consoles, and I'm sort of going through these like diagnostics that we're sort of like running on the damage, etc., I'm going to be looking on the system to see if there's any way that the sort of central computer core of this vessel effectively sends communication signals to the security droids to sort of tell them what's going on, effectively, like if they're needed in certain areas. My thought being that if I can counterfeit that signal, I could effectively order them to like head to a different area.
It does not appear that the droids are receiving signals from the ship. It does not appear that there is a central control device that's doing that, at least not on the ship, because which, as you're like looking at it, it doesn't look like it looks like the communications are functional on the ship, but it doesn't look like they're being used for anything right now. Which makes sense since there's no crew on board, and when they came on board, they may not have been functional initially. So that would explain why they're using the tabletop comm units and why the droids would not be relying on the ship for their orders. So you're not even sure if the ship is communicating with the droids at all in such a way that like triggering alarms, like triggering diagnostic protocols within the ship may not actually immediately be noticed by the droids. Now, obviously, if there's audible alarms or an explosion or whatever, one of the droids is probably going to notice that, but at least one, maybe more, depending on where you do it. But if you just trigger like diagnostic protocols and that sort of thing, it may not be picked up by the droids for who knows how long.
Okay, so I'm going to lean into my 2 companions and I'll say, do you want me to attempt causing a distraction elsewhere?
Yes, because I was going to say, if we can attach a comm unit somehow to your camera droid, open up the frequency, and it can just fly through the superstructure.
Well, the camera droid does already have basic vocabulary abilities. That shouldn't be too difficult. But what signal were you hoping to broadcast?
Basically white noise. So there's an empty comm. There's an open comm going throughout the ship, and they'll have to see if they can trace it, like a security breach.
I don't think that should be too difficult. My plan was to attach one of the devices we brought with us and then detonate the camera droid in a far part of the ship. That may lure away some of the security droids to investigate. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this particular model.
Neither am I, believe it or not. Sharissa now turns to Jim, the robot, and she'll wait for his input.
You might be waiting for a while the way Jim's been playing Jeff.
Whatever you need.
Sorry.
I could break something. I could probably I might be able to jam some doors. Open some airlocks.
Well, yes, that would be great for me and yourself, Jeff. But unfortunately, not everyone is capable of sustaining themselves with a sudden lack of oxygen.
Well, then why don't we do that? Let's funnel everyone to a place where those who can't sustain themselves will be, and then just open a door.
Because, Jeff, the ones that we need to get rid of, the other droids, they're the ones who will be unaffected by it. So instead of being in our current situation, what that will result in is just myself and you against all of those droids.
No, I'm saying vent the droids.
Yes, but we still have the problem of we need to actually get them all together in one place, and that's the sticking point with our otherwise infallible plan.
I will think on this.
If you weren't a droid yourself, Jeff, and I not largely mechanical myself, I would suggest that perhaps we see if we could rig some sort of ion pulse to disable them, but that would leave both of us in quite an unfortunate position.
I prefer to stay away from that idea, yes.
And likewise, I prefer to be able to continue to breathe.
Those seem like valid desires. I mean...
Okay, I don't think we've got anything to lose with causing the distraction. So effectively what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of try and get myself as near to the exit from this compartment as possible. I'm then going to fix one of the sort of reasonably sized explosive devices we've got to the bottom of my camera droid.
Okay.
And then sort of like with a long range transmitter I've got built into my cybernetics, I'm going to effectively sort of like almost like roll it out the door, have it hover up, and basically the plan being to like guide it to some far part of the ship, trigger the explosive. That'll hopefully go, oh, there's something going on at that far end of the ship. And
So
hopefully some of the droids might go and investigate.
The bulk of the repairs and everything is in the back lower part of the ship where the engineering area is. Where do you want to send the droid? Like how far? I mean, are we talking like the nose weapon systems, or are we talking like the landing bays up towards the bridge?
I'm hoping that maybe we could get them down to the landing bay, because if that's the case, we could then potentially go with Jeff's plan, because the landing bays are made to open to space.
Is that any good?
Lovely.
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, if we can potentially get it, if I can guide it to the landing bay and have an explosion there, and we can potentially get some of the droids there, we can hopefully override the sort of the docking controls and like vent just one of the sort of docking bays. and get rid of whoever's in there. That's what I'm hoping.
So
that sounds like a great idea.
The fixing stuff, the explosives, is not hard. Let's have you give me, though, a skullduggery or stealth test, though, as you're setting that up to see if you manage to do so without potentially getting noticed by anybody.
See if they spot me gaffer taping that explosive to the...
Right. Even though someone's not going to be looking at where you're at right now, the question is whether or not anything picks it up. So I'm going to say there's plenty of security on Star Destroyer, so I'm going to say it's 1 red and 1 purple. And 1 setback from just the general, like, not knowing where all the possible surveillance or whatever could be.
Don't forget, we've got 1 light side.
Yeah, you do have a light side at the
Yeah, that's true. I will spend that.
Okay.
Okay, so just to let you know as well, my plan will be is if I get it like a certain distance and then like someone rumbles it, my plan will be to, like, as long as it's not right next to us, to sort of detonate it wherever it is. I'm hoping to get it far, but if it comes down to it, I'll take what I can get. All right, let's see how this goes then.
2 successes and 2 threats. So, okay, so you get this thing on its way. No immediate noticing or anything like that.
You guys will notice that like my face sort of like glazes over and I'm like staring into space. I'm obviously concentrating on like piloting this thing.
And then perspiration's coming down.
Yeah. If you beat sweat down the old grey wrinkly face.
So Jim, are you slicing into the system to get ready to vent the atmosphere in the areas where the detonation goes if enough droids go there? Is that what you're attempting? That would be computers, if you want to try that.
Sure.
If he's doing that while I'm sort of staring off into space, I'm going to reach in my pocket, pull out a like data spike, and just like hold it out to him.
So I just want to point out that that's like roughly the equivalent of in real life, like handing a unknown syringe filled with like Ebola to someone, because like a data spike would be quite lethal to a droid. As he's like, don't touch myself with it. Don't touch myself with it.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm thinking if he can't handle taking a data spike off me, using it to help out with the computers, the old hacking is probably not going to go too well.
Fair enough.
Right now, Jeff is really thinking, I want to hit something.
Well, a data spike, nicely enough, is like an injectable. Like you grab it and you stab it into the computer and you're good.
Okay.
Everything is fine down here.
That'll give you 2 boost dice.
Yep.
Oh.
So the slicing on this will be difficulty 2 with 3 setbacks. And you have the 2 boost dice from your data spike, and then whatever your computers and talents give you as well.
I was going to say, at least we didn't roll a despair.
Yeah.
Not yet.
This time. Don't jinx it.
Oh,
there we go.
All right, so failure and a threat. So you're
You missed.
So basically what happens there is you're working on getting into the system to execute your part of the plan when our Duros buddy gets the device to near the landing bay, not like necessarily in one of them, but near enough to have the desired effect type thing, and you set off your explosion because you find yourself, like as you're doing the hover cam thing, you like dodge one K2S droid, dodge around the corner as a K2S droid comes by, and you realize that you're not going to make it into the landing bay.
Okay, if that's the case, basically, as I'm sort of getting near to the landing bay, when I think I've got as near as I'm going to get, if I see one of the K2 asteroids, I'm effectively going to have it collide with them and then blow up, because I'm thinking at least there's one less droid I've got to deal with.
Right. Worst case scenario, we take out one droid in this mission. Gotcha.
Yeah. Small victories, man. Small victories.
So there are now 49 K2SO droids, and there is an explosion, although you guys are far enough away from it, other than, like, I mean, realistically, John, you're the only one who knows there's an explosion immediately because y'all are far enough away that it's not going to be a powerful enough one to like reverberate the quarter kilometer through the decking, basically, that you guys are away at this point.
Okay, so now I'm no longer sort of zoned out,
Right.
piloting that. I'm going to quickly sort of like slide onto the computer console next to Jeff and basically see if I can like trigger a warning or an alert in that area of the ship effectively.
Okay.
So I'm aware it's a small explosion, so it's probably not going to be like warning, danger, danger, but I'm trying to like ramp up the alert so it sounds more serious than it is.
Well, as you guys, as you're coming out of it and you guys are trying to get access to this computer, you can actually hear, because y'all are a couple of compartments away from like the engineering probably at this point to set this up, where you're close enough you can hear what's going on in engineering, and you hear one in the droid, the K2SO voice. You know that collar that you can get that is basically like a megaphone?
Yep.
One of them says, all prisoners congregate in section 324, security protocols enacted. And you can hear like movement and people just kind of shuffling along, heading in the direction indicated, basically.
Okay, at this point, what I'm going to do is, as I'm on the computer, I'm going to actually see if I can, instead of triggering an alert for that, because it's already sounded, what I'm thinking of doing is see if I can like trigger a sort of fake alert, like the drive mechanism where we are is going to like overload, because then we can say, oh, we need to stay here and stop this, otherwise we're going to lose the whole ship, and that'll give us a reason for staying here.
Okay.
Rather than
well,
going
you
with
guys
the
aren't the prisoners either, so like.
Oh right. Oh, in that case, yeah, we'll just stay here then.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're not one of the ones with the slave collars or implants. So
I can't help it, man. I was just identifying with the plight of my people.
Well, that's fully understandable. You may want to go with that plan anyway, just in case. Like all the Duros look the same to humans, apparently. So
yeah. So what I'll do is I'll basically look and see if I can get that ready to sort of go, but I won't actually trigger it yet.
Okay. You can see in the as you're like looking at the security grids, you and Jeff, as y'all are accessing their computer systems and whatnot. Once you get on the computers, you guys get access, and y'all can basically be looking at different sets of data. Mm-hmm. They every section within about 300 yards of where your bomb went off has had the security doors, the blast doors, shut. Like they created a dome that goes all the way out to the hull, basically, to where whatever caused it is basically sealed in that area. Obviously, the shipboard systems aren't going to tell you anything about the droids' positionings or what they're doing as well, but you can see that their reaction was to, so far, they sealed the area where the explosion occurred off from the rest of the ship in case it was a more serious explosion. And then they have congregated the prisoners together for additional security as well. So those are the two things you've learned from this distraction so far.
This experiment.
Yeah. You're kind of probing the system, trying to figure out what they're going to do under certain scenarios to see how it can help you out and that kind of thing. So,
okay, now since I'm next to my companions, what I'm thinking, and I'll obviously relay this to you guys, is because I've had my neural recorder running since our CHIS friend gave us the sort of the down low of what was going on, and we've heard a lot of these security droids speak. What I'm thinking is that I could try and reconstruct a command in that vocalization to broadcast throughout the ship, ordering the security droids to a particular compartment.
Okay.
Then hopefully we can go with the rest of Jeff's plan.
Yes, sounds good.
All right. How much time do you guys want to wait? Do y'all want to stop and rest at this point? And if so, do you want to exit the Star Destroyer and go into the spacedock to rest, or do you want to rest here? That's up to you guys. Or go back to your ship.
Would it be easier for us to stay on site?
Definitely easier, but since you're not prisoners, it could potentially be considered unusual as well. So it's up to you what kind of perception you want to possibly deal with.
The only thing I'm thinking is, are we better to press on with every minute we spend here? We're being exposed to more of the radiation.
Exactly. So if we carry on with what our job is, then the sooner we're finished.
Okay.
Indeed, we don't have time to go through a full deradiation at the moment. It'd take too long.
Okay. All right. So as you guys take a quick break for the biologicals to get rations for the day and that sort of thing, and get a little bit of rest as y'all get ready for the next attempt at distraction and monitor what's going on as the security protocol, you see that it takes them about half an hour before they return to normal repair activities. You do
while that's going on. You said they'd locked down a lot of the doors.
That immediate area, yeah.
Yeah. What I want to do is I want to effectively see if there's because presumably when they've finished all their security checks and they're like, oh, everything's good to go, they'll unlock those doors. What I want to do is see if I can effectively interfere with the coding on the computer, so it'll look like there's a glitch in the system and they won't be able to like instantly unlock the doors. Because to be honest, I'm thinking the rest of the personnel are probably safer locked away in those quarters.
Are there cameras on us right now?
I'm assuming you guys found a location that you don't think that there's surveillance of you, but that there could be. I mean, it's always possible. It's an Imperial ship.
Okay. I don't really need to rest. What are the other inorganics doing?
Well, I mean, droids still have their power down cycles that they need to do in order to like recover strain and that kind of thing. And so even a lot of these repair droids, like as they get exposed to the radiation, even though they don't take radiation, it's extra work and power that they have to burn through. And so they go through their different, there are droids that are working constantly throughout the day, but it's different droids. Like they go through power down and power up cycles and that kind of thing. And there's quite a bit of time where you'll see like, every once in a while, you'll round a corner and you'll see like 6 of those little mouse droids, like that are just lined up there with like a gonk droid, and they're just like waiting for next orders type thing. Because not all of the very specialized duties of various droids are utilized at every moment in the repair cycles and stuff. So,
I'm going to have a really, really, really weird idea. Could we attempt to use one mouse droid to infect another mouse droid or whatever, to actually keep a watch out for us?
That's definitely something a slicer could do, is take control of some of the droids or reprogram them or whatever the case may be. It's a possibility.
You know, and then that way we know we've got eyes and we know what's coming.
Okay. You want to try that, John? It's actually like reprogramming some of the smaller droids.
I think it's a reasonable plan. However, we already have access to the sensors and know what's going on that way. I don't see that these mouse droids will give us any particular advantage should things turn for the worse.
Well, they could actually get under the feet of anybody coming our way.
Yeah, like reprogramming them, he would actually be changing their programming, and that is an unusual behavior to try to like program into them.
Indeed. Looking around the chamber at the minute, who aside from ourselves, who's actually in there?
In the particular room you guys are in, probably nobody. Y'all found a particular compartment to work out of that. You don't have any immediate threats or whatever. I mean, occasionally you'll see a droid or like a Duros like walk by the entry to this room type thing, or a couple of Duros or a Wookiee and a K2SO, like a Wookiee pushing another repair cart type thing.
In which case, I suggest we wait until we're the only people in this room. We then lock down this chamber with the blast doors as well as we're able, and then see if we can seize navigational control of the vessel.
Okay. Alrighty. Real quickly before we move forward, I need to use the bathroom, so let's take a quick bathroom, restock a drink break type thing. So start back in 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay. Hey, gorgeous. Red Venus fresh.
Sorry about the delay there. Got to talking with my dad for a moment and can talk your ear off. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that problem. All right, so you guys have basically got yourself a relatively secure location where you're not dealing with constant traffic coming through where you're working out of as you're trying to figure out how to go about this. You've caused your distraction and kind of seen how they reacted to that distraction. Any questions as far as like what you guys have seen about the droids and like what you're working through and that kind of thing? Y'all been on ship, we'll say like 8 to 10 hours at this point, for all the different stuff and setting up and checking things out and whatnot. So you got a pretty good idea of what's going on in the routine.
Only thing I can think of is if I've had any more chance to observe a bit more closely these implants that are on the Wookiees.
Yeah, the implants themselves, based on what you can see of them, you don't think that they are big enough to have enough explosive to be particularly deadly to show the lethality of with the level of dissuasion that you would expect. So you don't think it's like an explosive lethal thing. It could still be a biological or chemical agent that's in some sort of amount because it would take much less of that to cause some problems and some pain and still be lethal. But
Okay,
it's most
so,
likely some sort of electronics that's actually inhibiting certain brain activities or something like that. So
okay, so at
what-
some point when we've got like a Wookiee sort of like passing through, I effectively want to try and like sort of ping a signal to the device to see if it responds to basically determine whether that's a potential way we could activate them.
Let's see here. You can definitely tell that the device has wireless communications frequencies coming from it and to it. If you want to try to ping it, that would be a computer's check. See what kind of information you're able to learn from that.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend a destiny point so y'all have a light side back, and so that's going to be a difficulty of 2 red and 3 setbacks with the destiny point being spent.
Okay, 2 red.
And the setbacks are from encryption, so if you've got the appropriate talents, you can remove some of those.
How many setbacks was it originally?
3 base.
Okay, so 3 base, that'll be down to 2 boost. That's
Two
it.
successes. All right, so you managed to successfully ping and get some information. Didn't cause anything untoward with threats or despair or anything like that. No triumphs to get gobs of good news or whatever. But you do figure out that you get the idea based on the way the ping reacts that the signal that it is receiving and transmitting is a double-blind dead man switch. So basically, if either the broadcast or the device lose transmission from each other, it would do whatever its bad stuff is. And it could, if it's actually electronically controlling some brain activities or inhibiting brain activities of some kind, it could just send a stun pulse through the brain that could basically trigger the equivalent of a stroke in the person using it. So,
okay. Well, going on the plan that Shiesa suggested with the sort of like white noise plan earlier on, what I'm effectively thinking of doing is trying to broadcast a signal that effectively there'll still be a signal going to it, but it'll be my signal blocking out any other signal coming in, if you see what I mean.
So you want to become the signal that's transmitting to it and allowing it to continue to broadcast, basically.
Exactly, yeah. Because I know if we've got control of it, if it's controlling their behaviour, but it's still getting a signal, they should effectively just like stand there and not really do much. If it's just to stop them doing their natural inclination, then us blanketing out the existing signal will effectively mean as long as we keep that blanket signal up, they'll be able to do what they please.
Okay. So give me first a knowledge check. Probably. Man, which knowledge would this be? Probably lore or education, although I could see like core or military, warfare possibly as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll go for education then. All of my knowledge skills are pretty much the same anyway. So
right. So give me a check of that. Difficulty would be. So your plan's relatively complex. So I'm going to say it's 1 red and 2 purple. As you're like thinking through this plan and trying to figure out what problems you can think of before you even try anything, type thing.
Okay, I'm going to spend a light side point on it.
Okay. Oh, my.
That could have gone better.
It could have gone a lot better. So failure means, like, I'm just going to say that the plan as you've outlined, you don't think of any additional problems that you can think of. With the advantages, any ideas what you want to do with the advantages in this context?
Okay. Well, since I don't believe there's any problem with the plan, I'll be pushing on with it, and I'll effectively be using the advantages to sort of widen the broadcast area.
Okay. So basically, mechanics-wise, we'll say those are passing you 3 boost dice for your enacting your plan, basically, as you've thought it out and that kind of thing. Actually, I will say it's going to pass you 2 boost dice and use one of them to point out something, and that is that the equipment that you're carrying, depending on what the broadcast is coming from, you're not sure that your personal equipment would be enough to actually overpower or block out that signal.
Right, okay.
But you are on a Star Destroyer with communications arrays. So, like, while your personal equipment can't do it, most likely, there's little doubt that the Star Destroyer has the capability of it if you get control of the communications suite or something.
So I'll be thinking perhaps I can reroute the signal through the communications array to boost its power effectively.
Yep. Make it powerful enough to do what you're planning, basically. So.
Yeah.
All right. So then, if no one wants, does anyone want to do anything before y'all try to enact this plan?
I was thinking, are we going to could we hijack the signal and make it our own to keep them alive?
That's what his,
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to
That's
do.
exactly.
what he's trying to do.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's the current plan.
Is there? Let's say. What do they do with the bodies when whatever happens? I mean, they don't just leave them there, do they?
They
If they
probably
do,
just sent them into space, I expect, because they're no longer of use.
Most likely, although you have not seen it occur, so there's no way to be 100% sure on that.
Or
Well-
into the trash compactors and out with the trash.
can I
Which
find one?
means they get vented in space. So,
I pick
Can
up something heavy and act like I'm moving it to somewhere else on the ship, and I'm trying to find a body or even somebody who's looks like an easy mark to let me get a closer look at that. Instead of trying to change all the signals, see if I can maybe get a couple people. If I can just, instead of changing the software, maybe I can change the hardware, change the wiring, maybe not require it to have to receive a signal at all on one of them, just to build up a larger team, some people who can work with us.
okay, so you're wanting to find a Wookiee to involuntarily recruit, basically, by disabling his implant.
Oh no, absolutely voluntary.
Well, how are you going to ask him if he's voluntary or not? Especially if this is interfering with his behavior.
I assume he's voluntary.
Okay. Assumption of voluntary means involuntary until you know that they were voluntary.
That's right.
If you want to volunteer, growl furiously.
What would he do if he didn't want to volunteer? He'd probably growl furiously.
I'm trying to help him.
2 eye blinks for yes, 1 for no.
That's right.
All right, so it's not hard for you to find a Wookiee who's working solo. The problem is finding a Wookiee who's working solo that is not in visual range of a K2SO unit. So what do you want to do with that? I mean, the security droids are doing their job.
Is there a change of the guard? At some point, they stop and talk to each other. Are these pretty professional security droids?
They're not talking to each other hardly at all. They are actually, as you guys have watched, you kind of get the idea that particular K2SO units are monitoring particular Wookiees, or particular work crews in general. So
The troublemakers.
yeah,
Okay.
there's definitely some of them where it's like a particular droid may be watching this one Wookiee, and then there's some droids that are watching like these 4 Duros and this Wookiee type thing. So like, you definitely get the idea that there's different levels of either troublemaking, or some droids are more Wookiees are more capable in their minds of some things, or something. Kind of hard to discern the pattern yet.
Shoot. Okay.
Basically, I'm giving you an opportunity to try to come up with a plan to get a target away from the K2SO, or how are you going to deal with the K2SO?
Okay.
Because one of the two needs to occur, unless you're going to try to like free him right in front of the K2SO, which that will lead to needing to deal with the K2SO in another way.
That's kind of the direction I'm heading. Anyway.
But do we have some sort of like cabling and stuff like that? We could actually say, can you move out of the way, please, because we need to get where you're standing.
He could easily do that, but that's not going to buy him the time to do what he's wanting to do to the Wookiee.
If all else fails, we could always try slamming a data spike into it.
Yeah, actually, that was another plan in the back of my head as well.
Right.
I won't be the one doing that.
I mean, it's one of those things that there are plenty of ways to deal with this, but all of them basically have potential ways they go really wrong as well. So,
you go to jam it in and it goes down. What are you doing?
right. I am trying to rescue you. Do not resist.
Resistance is futile.
Now you're crossing your genres.
Yeah. Damn. I'm looking at what I'm capable of doing, and how close is this? Is this security droid to the Wookiee? Like, I understand he's keeping a close eye. Is he?
The security droids to whatever individual or group that they're keeping an eye on, they're always within at least medium range. Sometimes shorter engaged, depending on what activities are going on. But they're always within at least medium range on the outside edge. So.
Well, if you need some help, Jeff, I'm quite willing to try it with the data spike, but I can't give any guarantee of my success. But it would seem foolish for you to attempt that, since you'll be needed to work on the device.
What's the problem if we all three just jump him before he has a chance to respond? Not the Wookiee.
The droid could quite possibly summon other security droids to its location, depending on what its protocol is.
Would we not be able to catch it off guard and disable it?
If we could do it quickly, I think yes, but we'd need to be able to do it fairly quickly before we could get a warning signal out. But as you say, there are three of us, but it is a specifically designed security guard that's been consigned to guard Wookiees. I would assume it's fairly capable.
You put it that way.
It's designed to guard Wookiees with that device on them.
Oh, that's a very good point.
So they could be the ones transmitting the signal.
I doubt that. I think they're just there in case anything goes wrong and to make sure they're in the right place and doing the right thing. But Jeff does have a point that they wouldn't need to necessarily be so formidable, since they're guarding people who are already implanted. I'm certainly willing to give the data spike idea a try. Like you say, there are three of us. If we can get just one of the droids on its own,
I'd be happy to hurt somebody for you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Jeff.
How about if I'm willing to allow you to dislocate one of my shoulder and as soon as it comes over, you can I don't know, ram it with a data spike and put my shoulder back into place.
I think if we're going to data spike it, rather than risk injuring yourself, since, as it said earlier, it's not a medical droid, it's probably not going to be terribly interested. I think the best thing we could do is if the three of us just nonchalantly walk past it and then set about it and see if we can take it by surprise.
Would you like me to have a go with the data spike?
If you'll forgive the indelicate question, how proficient are you at jamming spiky objects into people?
Well, I've been known to stab a few Imperial officers.
At which point I just hand you the data spike. Good enough for me.
When your answer is to either brag or be truthful, either way in this case, you're probably more capable than a Duros with the one brawn as a race.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it then.
All right, so you guys have picked your K2SO unit. It's one that's watching a solitary Wookiee that basically this Wookiee is working on a particular area of paneling where they're just having him like rip out the innards of all this stuff so it can be replaced because it's all like damaged. So he's just doing heavy manual labor, so he's working by himself and it's just the one droid watching him. Are you sealing any of the nearby doors or anything like that? Or are you doing anything to give you all more privacy?
Yeah,
or just going for it?
If I can seal off some of the doors that like lead into that compartment, I'll
Okay.
try not to do them all at once because that'd obviously be like, oh, something crazy is going on. But just sort of like do it gradually, like a normal sort of procedure.
Door testing.
Okay. So the sealing it off is not a problem. So what I'm gonna do is, what is your deception? Or actually, have you rolled deception versus this droid's vigilance as you're doing the door testing to see if it like sets off red flags for it, basically.
While he's doing that, I will go ahead and start heading toward the Wookiee.
Okay.
And really trying to draw his attention because, heck, we all know I'm not supposed to be walking over there.
Okay,
All
what's
right.
the difficulty for my roll?
1 red, 1 purple.
Okay.
They're decent vigilance, but not like extreme. Oh, go ahead and escalate
So,
that.
do you want me to-
Oh, it didn't roll purple for some reason. Oh, you
that's
didn't.
weird.
A D. So just roll a D and see if it watch it be a wash. That'd be nice. Oh, just a threat. Okay, so you're starting to lock down areas, and it turns to look at you as the Duros and says, "Halt! You are not authorized to be in this section." And it's not looking at the other two of you. It's just like, for some reason, the Duros got its attention.
I'll just say, I appear to be having some trouble with this control panel. Could you please assist me?
He then, like it's KTO says, like one long arm points at Jeff, says, "You, repair droid, assist him."
But, and I pick up some of the gutting. I'm supposed, like, what do I do with this?
Drop it. The Wookiee can handle that.
Okay, as it's distracted, I'm going to get it with the data spike.
All right. So you guys roll me cool checks for initiative, and it will be rolling vigilance.
Oh, this will be funny.
Can I roll?
No, because you guys are enacting the trap. He's having to see if he notices in time or not.
I'm not cool at all.
We know this.
I'm vigilant as hell.
So which of us needs to roll?
Each of you.
All right, okay.
So Shadow got 2 successes.
That's 2.1.
All right, and our droid.
I rolled. I got nothing.
Oh, okay. So it's PC to NPC, 2 PCs. So you at least one of you beat the droid, so Shadowcat can use that initiative slot to get the jump on it.
Or would one of you guys like to take that slot?
Give it the spike.
Give it the spike.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's one of those things. If you're successful, they don't need their initiative slots. So, do you have the rules for the data spike candy there, John? I don't remember which book they're in. So,
Data spike.
Modifications.
special mods.
All I've got written here is that the data spike adds 2 boost dice to computer checks made to slice into computers.
So basically what I'll do then, they're one-use devices.
Yeah.
And it doesn't exactly give rules for using them for this purpose, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's going to give you, it's going to be a melee check, since you're using it as a weapon, basically. And it'll give you the 2 boost dice for the check, because it doesn't take much to get it in, to do the thing. But I'm going to, to trigger the full, disabling of the droid with it will either be a triumph or 3 advantages, but otherwise it's going to be like a +1 brawn melee weapon against the droid. Your difficulty to hit is 1 red, 1 purple, 1 black.
Setback.
Do we have any light side points left?
Challenge.
We do not at the moment.
Oh, dang.
In fact, I will spend a dark side point to make it 2 red and a black. So this can go really wrong, possibly.
Oh, that means I can't. That means I can't spend it back. Oh, this is not good. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
All right, no hits, but you did get an advantage. All right, so you swing at it. You don't even impact, so the data stack is not used. Oh, you didn't roll the 2 boost dice.
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot.
That could make a difference. And it did. So
yes!
You hit with the 3 advantages. So you hit, inject, and there's that moment where the droid registers what's going on, and it turns towards you, raising an arm out, ready to do that choke slam thing that it does to Jin in Rogue One. And as it reaches towards you, all of a sudden it just stops. Hand 8 inches from your throat. And from the back, as it's facing the back of towards the 2 of you, you have to turn in to face her. You can see the data stack sparking and charging as it's disabled the droid, at least for now.
Okay, as soon as it becomes obvious the droid's disabled, I'm going to assume that Jeff's going to get on with his part of the plan. I'm going to head over to that droid and basically I want to see if there's any possibility I can reprogram it to act according to my voice commands. If not, then basically just to permanently shut it down so it can't boot up again in a few moments and murder it or so.
Let's see, you're reprogramming it. I think would probably take too long. It's one of those things that you definitely can. It's more of the timetable. Is that a timetable you want to deal with? It probably would take too long. The locking it down or permanently disabling would be relatively easy. The actual reprogramming it would take too long in this context. It's something you could do later. If you want to make it away,
I'll just disable it then. Effectively,
disable it and kick it into a storage locker so that if the rest of the mission goes well, then you got a K2SO to reprogram basically as well.
Well, I was thinking what I'll actually do is I'll drag it over and set it so it looks like it's watching us as we carry on doing our other stuff. Then if any other droid's compatible, there's already a droid watching them.
Okay.
So what's this roll I need to do to rewire it to not require a send out signal or a send in signal?
Well,
or
the first step of this process is going to be convincing the Wookiee to stand still for you.
Okay.
So how do you want to do that? You could try to charm him, you could try to coerce him, you could negotiate, you could shoot him with a stun weapon. There's plenty of options as to how you want to do it. It's just which one do you want to do?
Well, I want to coerce him.
Okay.
Hey, look, we're trying to help you.
That's not very coercive.
Would it be better if a squishy came over to it and spoke to it?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go over to the Wookiee and say to our droid, "I've got this one. You do whatever you need to do."
Okay, so how are you going to convince the Wookiee to stand still long enough for the droid to do its job?
Because
Because he's wanting to fiddle with the contraption on the back of this thing's neck, which the thing is either inhibiting its behavior or is deadly enough that it's interfering with its behavior. So
okay, she'll basically get it to get the Wookiee to look at her, and she will say, "I know you are in pain. Give me 2 blinks of your eyes if you understand me. Or blink your eyes twice if you can understand me."
it looks at you with an annoyed look. It growls something, and then it blinks twice.
Okay.
Apparently wanted to get its like 6 words in before
right.
blinking at you.
Right. We want to help you escape this ship. My colleague, and she points to the droid. He's just going to take a look at the thing you have on the back of your neck and just determine what its use is.
Okay. Give me either charm or negotiation, I think, are the most appropriate for what you've done there as far as the RP goes. So.
Can I aid?
Yeah. And you'll get an assist from the team being ready to act.
Would there potentially be a boost for the fact that like the Wookiees seen us take out one of the security guards who was guarding him?
I will say that will even upgrade the check. Because that definitely tells him something's going on, but it could be a trap. So I mean, like,
okay, so I get to put a proficiency in there. Cool.
Oh dang!
Oh yeah, just have 1 presence. Right. All right. So you have a proficiency dice and a boost dice.
Okay, I'm gonna. Can I flip?
Yep.
Light side. Okay, so
that makes it a yellow, a green, and a blue versus 1 red.
1 red. Okay. 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 So somehow I've convinced it.
But yes, something bad's gonna happen. All right. So the Wookiee. What do you want to do with those advantages? Like the Wookiee definitely seems to have understood what you're doing and seems willing to cooperate. What do you want to do with the advantages?
What do you guys think?
Would it be possible to give any of them as boosts to Jeff's attempt, like represented by the Wookiee holding still or cooperating?
Right, like cooperating enough to like turn his head when the Jeff asks and that kind of thing. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Okay, that'll do.
You got 4, so you could pass 4 boosts if you want, or with 3 you can upgrade a check. So I would say you could do an upgrade and a boost, or 4 boosts if you want to pass, whichever way you want to do that.
I'm going to pass all the boosts over to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Better chance of success as opposed to chance of triumph. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the despair I will trigger here in just a minute. I'm going to let Jeff get started on the the neck piece here.
What's the difficulty?
All right. So you've got the 4 boost from your friend there. The base difficulty will be. I'm going to spend a dark side point. So I'll make it a red and 2 purple. And then 3 setbacks because of the encryptions and stuff like that on it. And the tininess and the tendrils and all that good stuff as you're trying to figure out how to disable it or interfere or whatever.
Okay, I've got gearhead 2, so it only becomes 1 setback.
Yep. So 1 red, 1 black, and 2 purple.
And 4 boosts.
Yep.
Nice.
4 successes and an advantage. Okay, so with the successes, you are able to figure out that what this thing is doing is it is actually interfering with the part of the brain that controls like the adrenal gland.
Yeah.
So basically, these Wookiees cannot rage, for one, and they don't have the benefits of like adrenaline, how it helps you resist pain and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a chemical castration type thing.
Yeah, kind of. An anger management, a technological anger management-ish thing. But you do, because of that, you realize that the bad stuff that could happen if a signal was disrupted is that actually it supercharges the adrenaline gland and will force basically the equivalent of a heart attack / stroke, as like the body's just flooded with adrenaline. And it's one of those things that may not seem that bad initially, but when you start, like, if you think about it, the idea is that it's cutting the body off completely from adrenaline. And then its bad stuff is that it would then flood a body that's been deprived of it for who knows how long with adrenaline.
Yeah.
So, with the advantage, what else do you want to notice? Like, you have a question or anything else you want to pick up on?
How to maybe wire it so that it's actually picking up its own signal. So that it's in a constant loop rather than relying on another exterior device.
Okay, so you're trying to see if you could figure out a way to do that, and I'm going to say that is not something. It doesn't look like it's got enough circuitry to attempt to do that. Now, the one thing you do figure is that if you had 2 Wookiees at a time, with people working on both devices simultaneously, you could actually program them to where those 2 Wookiees then their signals were broadcasting to each other and receiving for each other. But that would only be a solution that would help 2 Wookiees at a time, and like it would have to be triggered almost simultaneously, otherwise it could cause problems.
Okay.
So, it's not something that's super feasible, but at least it's an option that you figure out, type thing.
Okay.
So at this point, as you're looking at the back of the Wookiee's head, the Chiss is standing in front of the Wookiee trying to keep him calm and like helping. We need you to turn this way, that kind of thing. At this moment, everyone can make me a vigilance check. Wow, Jim, you weren't kidding when you said this droid was vigilant.
I was thinking one way we could rig them is that the Wookiees could have like a little signal box on its belt or bandolier. Sorry, and it can just do a signal to itself, which is one way around it.
Well, yeah, there's other ways to do it, but not with the equipment you have on hand in mission, basically.
Yeah.
So
that's better.
One success, 2 successes, 1. Shotgun got 3. Jim got 2, 4. All right, so we've got 2 PCs, an NPC, a PC, and then an NPC. So it's a total of 5 initiative slots here. What happens is, and this is the despair triggering, as you guys are in the middle of this, 2 of the K2SO units make their way from different directions into the area you guys are in, and they're about to open fire, but you guys won initiative, so you get to react before they process things and start doing their thing. So Or actually, they're not opening fire. They're about to interfere.
Okay.
So you see 2 K2SO droids. Who's going to go first?
I'd suggest we potentially let Jeff go first, because if he can like remove the thing and then like point the Wookiee in their direction, that might help out a little bit.
Do I have the time for that?
Well, you definitely have the time to try. It will be hard. There will be challenge dice involved, and despairs are not going to be good for your Wookiee friend.
The only other possibility is if there's like a blast door between them and us, I could potentially try and like lock them out.
Right. You guys do have a light side point. I didn't really define exactly how far away they are as far as whether or not there's doors in the way. So if you want to spend a destiny point and say there is a door in the way, then you can then try to shut them out.
It's up to you guys. Do you want me to spend the point and try and lock them out, or do we want to go for the point that Wookiee at them?
I was going to say use it and see if we can close the doors and maglock it.
Oh. Okay. Sure.
Okay. So are you guys happy for me to spend the light side point and take the first initiative slot to lock the doors down effectively?
Yeah.
We're about to give ourselves a buddy.
Okay, so spending the destiny point, there is a blast door between you and the two of them in the direction they're approaching from. So quickly, our Duros is able to run over and slap the controls as a maneuver, basically, to close the door. And then as an action, you can do a computer's check to try to maglock secure, or you can do a mechanics check to just try to break the door. They can't be opened, whichever way you want to go about it.
What's the difficulty?
If you want to, like, security-wise do it, then it would be computers, difficulty 2 with 2 setbacks. If you want to do it with mechanics, I would say it's just difficulty 3.
Okay, so I'll do computers. I reduce 1 setback, so it's 2 difficulty and 1 setback.
Okay.
That'll be 5 successes and an advantage.
Oh, yes.
All right, so you slam it shut and hit the security console and program in a security code that someone would have to come up with to override it, basically, or bypass in some way. What do you want to do?
As I'm doing that, I'll be like, whatever you're going to do, Jeff, I suggest you do it quickly.
Okay.
All right. What do you want to do with that advantage?
Okay, with the additional successes and the advantage, if I can lock down any like sort of secondary doors in the area, just so there's like more layers people would have to go like burst their way through to get towards.
So you want to seal off the section you guys are in as best as you can, basically, this turn?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, sounds good. Next initiative slot.
Okay. I'm going to use bad motivator.
Okay, what's that one do? I don't have.
Once a game, make a hard mechanics check. 1 device spontaneously fails.
Okay, that seems good.
Okay. There's no setback, nothing to. Okay.
It's hard. Let's see here.
It's 3 difficulty.
Yeah. I can't really think of any setbacks that would necessarily apply. Actually, I'm going to give 1 setback just because you're having to rush. I mean, like,
Cool. I'll get rid of it. I'll reduce it.
Gearhead, so I mean, you got gearhead too, so it's one of those things. I can't think of 3 setbacks to look you up with.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. So you start tinkering with this thing. The Wookiee looks kind of panicked when you start actually fiddling with it, as opposed to looking at it. Considering the bad stuff, that is probably a justifiable reaction initially from him. But you get it done, and we'll say, any of you watched the 100?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the commander's device, like that is in the back of their head type thing?
Oh, yeah.
He pulls that kind of move where he actually gets it powered on and just starts pulling on it, and it detracts because it's not got the power in the system to stay in place type thing. And all of a sudden, all these little fibrous tendrils come pulling out of the Wookiee's head, and he's free. And the Wookiee kind of like, his eyes look to be about the size of Ronto eyes for a moment there as it like comes out, and then he's free.
As it's coming, as it's being taken out, she's going to grab his arms, as if to steady him, and he's got some support.
Okay. He nods a bit, and then once it's free, he like looks around for a moment and shakes his head, and then he reaches down and he grabs like a big wrench from the toolkit that he was working with, it was a big piece of conduit because he was pulling conduit out and stuff like that. And he turns to face the door where the Duros has secured things with the K2SO droids. You can hear them, like the two of them that were immediately approaching that door, like you can hear them start pounding on the door. They're big and bulky, but you don't think they're going to make great progress with that.
Jeff, can you pass me that implant over here?
I'm not the one who. Oh, yeah, I'll toss it to you.
Okay, so as I'm sort of like working on the rest of the plan, to try and seize control of like the navigation from here to like reroute it, as I grab hold of this implant, I'm going to just take like a more detailed look at it. Now I can see it exposed, and just check if I do think there's any way that we could like remotely deactivate the other ones.
I mean, it's possible to remotely deactivate them, but you do know that. I mean, like it's very clear with the circuitry and like with what it does that if you screw that up, you will kill them all that you try to remotely deactivate. Like it'll trigger the security.
At this point, I'm going to walk over to the Wookiee with like this device in my hand. I'm going to look at him and I'll say, "Now, my friend, as we have freed you from this device, I believe it will be possible for me, using the computer system here by rerouting some of the subroutines, to free all of your people. But if it goes wrong, it would be very dangerous for them."
He looks thoughtful a moment.
"I will leave the final choice up to you, my friend. What would your people want?"
He reaches for the device in your hand with one of his hands, and he looks at it, and then he drops it on the floor and steps on it.
I'm considering
and kind of nods to you.
Right, yeah, I'm going to slide straight back over to the computers. I'll be like,
all right. Well, okay, are we still in initiative?
Technically, because the droids are trying to break in.
Okay.
You've done enough to get attention, so you're now working against a clock, basically. So,
is there another way out of this room?
Sure, but they're all secured down because your slicer decided to secure them.
Perfect.
Evans.
You got.
Do you want me to just unlock one of them for you?
From the section, there are 4 ways out, like that you could approach, and he's got all the blast doors secure at the moment.
Yeah,
so
well, I've set them. I've set them with a code. So if you need me to like open one of the doors to let you out, I can do that.
Right.
Okay. Do you happen to still have that little camera droid, that flyer?
No, I blew it up.
Oh, you blew it up. That's right. Okay.
Sure. The shards are down by the docking.
Yeah, it's section. Done that way about 600.
So I'm gonna. I step up. I tilt. My head tilts, and I go. Do you remember where you blew up your flying friend?
Yes, of course. I was in communication with it until it blew up, and I'll sort of bring up like the diagnostic on my data pad from earlier and sort of show him on the map where it blew up.
This section.
Set off the alarms. Funnel those doors. That's where I'm going. Get ready to open the doors. And
okay. Ready when you give the word.
I'm starting to run that way, drawing as much attention as I can to myself. Set off the alarms to let them know that I'm there and I'm the bait.
So yeah, my plan will be to open the door, let him through, shut the door again quickly, set as many alarms off as I feasibly can.
Okay. Are you just setting them off in that area, or are you like setting off alarms all over the ship?
Well, I know roughly the route he's going to take, so I'll sort of set them off in that sort of general area.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's see here then.
I can do this part 2.
Well,
This is one of those moments as the GM where you're like, okay, I had a lot of ideas as the ways y'all might try to accomplish this. This was not one of them. So
our initial plan did not work, but it's a good plan. We just needed better bait. All right.
Right. While Jeff is doing that, I'm actually going to tell the Wookiee exactly what our plan is. Is either to destroy the ship or steal it for the rebellion.
he nods comprehension and basically, because he doesn't have a way of speaking basics, so what he does once you explain the basics of the plan is he nods that he comprehends you, and then what he does is with this big old piece of conduit he's got, he steps between you and the door that the two K2SO droids are trying to breach. So he's standing there at the ready, and then he looks over his shoulder and nods at you again, basically.
I think our friend.
So you can interpret that however the hell you want, but he's definitely acknowledging that he understood what the hell you're saying.
I'm interpreting it as I'm glad there's a Wookiee between us and those SO droids.
Right. I mean, it may not be enough, but it's better than nothing between you and them, right?
we all understand Wookiee, do we?
No, probably not.
No. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to be there ready as soon as Jeff gets near this door. I'm going to open it, set the alarms off, and then shut it behind him.
All right. Jeff is on the way down towards the landing bay. And with that, we kind of get a montage scene where Jeff is running along the corridors and alarms start going off in his wake, basically. Cuts to scenes where Duros and Wookiees and droids and K2SO units are kind of looking around confused at what's going on. And then all of a sudden, we see one of the K2SOs doing the little broadcast thing. Prisoners congregate in section blah, 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 blah. All of them start filtering together.
As we hear that, that'll be when I'll be trying to send out my signal to deactivate the devices on the Wookiees. So I'm hoping if they get a load of Wookiees in the same area and they're suddenly all oh my god, we're free, it's time to get our Wookiee rage on, that might cause another distraction.
There's a good chance that would cause a
either
distraction.
that or in a merciless fashion, they're all going to drop dead, and that will also be a distraction.
All right. So give me your computers check as you're slicing into this. So the difficulty would be 4, with one of them being red. So it's 1 red and 3 purple. I will spend a dark side point to make it 2 red and 2 purple. And the encryption is going to be the same 3 setback that we've been dealing with the whole time.
Down to 2, so there it goes. I've got 1 success, but unfortunately, 4 threats.
Let's see. Okay, so actually, you had 2 more boost dice because of the previous roll you had. That.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll just roll that separately then.
Go big, man. Yes.
All right. So 2 successes and 2 threats. So while you're setting this up, we'll say that you guys are monitoring whatever surveillance equipment for the areas they're being imprisoned in, and you see a moment where you guys are getting a look and you see the Wookiees, and they're all kind of doing the whole congregating thing. A couple of them start crouching down as they're clustered together. The Duros are clustered over on the other side of this room. There's about a dozen K2SO units in the room with them, basically. And all of a sudden you see first one and then a second Wookiee start having seizures and then falls over dead. But then moments later, you see the other Wookiees kind of stirring a bit, looking agitated by this, because they're not really sure what they did wrong type moment. And then you see one of the bigger, older Wookiees. He's got the gray tuft of fur going down his face and middle section type thing. One of those, and he's a bigger guy. And all of a sudden he kind of looks at the 2, and he grumbles a bit, and then he looks and he charges one of the K2SOs. Just barefisted, just charges it and starts pummeling the K2SO, which, I mean, is pretty durable on its own regards, and it's about the same size as the Wookiee, but this is a bigger Wookiee, so it's like starts pummeling it and falls down, and then a couple of the other K2SOs collapse on them, and you start seeing like 3 K2SOs start beating up this Wookiee, and basically the Wookiees join in, and there's a full-on riot in this section. In this particular section where they were getting them at the moment this happens, you know how many Wookiees total are on board the ship? But this particular cluster that you have surveillance of, there's about 30 Wookiees, and 2 of them died, but the rest of them start tearing the K2SOs limb from limb. As you did successfully disable most of them. The first one's
okay, at this point she'll see that I look absolutely like mortified at the fact I potentially, because I'm like, oh, 2 have died in that group, and like mentally I'm like scaling it up to the amount
right.
of
There would be 4 or 5 groups of that size throughout the thing, so you may have killed 8 to 12.
Yeah, I'm sort of hanging my head a bit, and I'm looking absolutely mortified, but I know that we've got to, like, we're committed now, we've got to like press on and get the rest of this stuff done, or it'll all be for nothing.
She will put her hand on his shoulder and say, "You've done good. We knew the risks, that some were not going to survive."
So, Jeff, you're getting collapsed on by 3 K2SOs who are responding to the bait.
And that's what I call a disarmament.
Are they really falling on me, or are they converging?
No, like they're like, one of them's kind of chasing along the way you were coming, like he's following you, and then the other 2 are coming from side corridors. You can still charge ahead the direction you were going, but like you're kind of at a 4-way intersection, and you can see one coming down each hallway towards you. Give me a vigilance test.
Gotcha.
Can we actually get a feed on Jeff, our droid?
Not at this exact moment.
Because what would be really cool would be 2 doors coming down either side.
All right, you won initiative rather decidedly over them, so you get to go first. They are effectively, like, the 2 that are coming from the sides are effectively at short range from you, and the one following in your wake is at medium range.
Gotcha. Well, then, so going forward, there's nobody.
Not that you can see yet. I mean, there are more side quarters up ahead, so like there's the potential of someone, obviously, but there's no one in sight.
Okay, I'm going to be. I've got one goal: keep drawing as many of them as I possibly can.
Okay.
And I'm going to use maneuver and an action as a maneuver to continue literally sprinting full speed down the hallways.
Are you planning on stopping at any point, or is this going to be a true chase scene type thing where you're just trying to evade them for as long as you can and run deeper and deeper into the ship type thing?
I told them to find me in the room that we were planning on luring them all into anyway. So when I get there, that's when I'm stopping. Because since I told them to wait for me to get there, I'm hoping that they're looking in that room, waiting for me to show up to open up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Let's see here. So, I'm trying to remember chase or pursuit rules. Pursuit, maybe. I know they've got rules for it. I just can't remember what they've got it labeled under.
According to this, it's on page 241 in the Edge of the Empire book.
241 in Edge of the Empire. Does anyone else have the problem when you have a stack of Star Wars books near you that whatever book you need is the one on bottom?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which book you need. It's always on bottom somehow.
Okay, on page 241, that seems to be mainly about vehicle chases, so I don't know whether it's the same rules or not. This is mainly about starship chasers.
Well, we can use the same rules though, and rather than piloting checks, we can use athletics, coordination, or resilience.
Athletics, please.
So, I mean, here it just seems to be suggesting that both parties make a check, which, if it's a clear pathway, is just a simple check with no difficulty, and whoever gets the most successes sort of either draws away from their pursuer or closes the distance by one range band.
Okay. So they're going to start off 2 range bands behind you, basically, because you maneuver, or actually, yeah, you maneuver away this first round, but then the closest ones are 2 range bands behind you. So they've got to net beat you by 2 to actually catch you in any given round. And we'll say that at the time that these guys collapse on you, you are effectively 10 successes worth of movement away from the point that you wanted to space the droids in the first place. So if you beat them to 10 successes before they get 2 successes net on you, then you will have sufficiently outran them, basically, to get there first safely. Otherwise, they'll get a swing in on you first at some point along the way before you get there, which could interfere with the plan. And I'm going to say, because these are narrow hallways and whatnot, it's not going to be a simple check. It's going to be difficulty 1 for both parties involved.
Okay.
So there's the chance of the halls or crates or debris getting in the way and that sort of thing. So
just tell me when you want me to start rolling then.
All right. So go ahead and roll your first one. I'm trying to find
Oh.
Got the wrong book in my hand. That's why I can't find what I'm looking for.
What can I use advantages for in the chasing? Give myself boost die.
Yeah, you can give yourself a boost to the next one, or recover strain if you need to. If you roll multiple advantages, you could give them setbacks, as like you throw debris in the way or something like that. And they do not have any actual ranks in these skills, so it's just their brawn.
I'd suggest maybe giving them some setbacks with the advantages.
Well, he just got the 1 advantage this time.
All right.
I think.
I got 3.
Oh, you got 3, but you didn't get successes. Okay. So you could give them a setback and give yourself a boost on your next roll, or you could give yourself 3 boosts on your next roll. You could upgrade your next check or upgrade the difficulty of their check with 3.
I'm probably going to end up upgrading all of mine. So giving myself 3 boost.
Give yourself 3 boosts? Okay. Wow. So they got 3 net successes on you, which means they're going to get a swing in on you this round.
Go ahead.
And one of them goes to punch you.
I do have
melee defense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so they do not hit you, but they swing at you in such a way, we'll say that like it impacts like your hip area with like a tackle type move, so it's not enough to do damage to you, but we're going to say that the Triumph will actually upgrade the difficulty of your next check, so rather than a purple, it'll be a red. Okay. And then they're going to pass themselves 2 boost dice on their next roll with the advantages.
Okay.
As they try to keep up. And now you're even, so you actually have to beat them every round to avoid them getting an attack again. So.
All right.
And it's your turn.
Got 3 boosts last time, and I get a red now.
Yep, red, so purple.
Ha!
So you got 1 success, 5 advantages, and a despair.
Okay, I'm going to give myself 1 boost and then 2 disadvantages, or 2 setbacks.
Okay, give them 2 setbacks, and give yourself 1 boost.
I was going to say, for the despair, could he like stumble?
I'm going to use the despair to say that like as he's running, he has to do one of those sliding, skidding stops to like turn a corner type thing, and he runs into the wall, and he hasn't picked up speed again in time for their roll. So if they catch him, which means they just have to roll one success to catch you, then they're going to get to upgrade their attack roll, as they're basically just like spearing you into the wall type thing.
Okay.
So.
Also, would there be like any debris?
He gave them 2 setbacks, so like they're having to deal with dodging some stuff or jumping over it or whatever the case may be.
All right.
They got 2 successes and 4 advantages.
Okay.
So they will give you 2 setbacks on your next roll, and then they caught up with you, so they're going to try to attack you again.
Okay.
Ability, efficiency, and then it's the upgrade. Setback. All right. He punches you, and that is 3, 4, 8, 9 wounds coming your way.
Awesome. I can take that.
And see, that's you are net only 1 success along your journey to your destination. So
Right.
Again, this round you've got to actually beat them in order to get away.
All right,
Get some
so-
distance.
So 2 setbacks on this one?
Yeah, they gave you 2 setbacks. You passed yourself a boost.
Right.
I think that's it this time.
Gosh.
All right.
I cannot get a success to save my life. Giving them 2 setbacks. Or 1 setback.
1 setback? Okay. They did not catch you this round. So now you are 8 successes away from where you're going. And what do you want to inflict on them with a threat? You could give them another setback if you want, or recover a strain for yourself, or give yourself a boost, I guess. So.
I can give myself a boost with that?
I'll let you give yourself a boost, or you can give them a setback because it's their roll.
Give them a setback.
Okay. All right, and then the next round of the chase, your turn.
I'm back to just my athletics, huh?
Yep. Base pool, because you gave them setback. Yeah.
Yes!
Nice. So you got 5 of the
That'll
8
do.
successes. So now you're 3 successes away from your destination location. And what do you want to do with the triumph?
How much narrative do I get with this?
Propose what you want, and I'll tweak it or.
Okay.
whatever it needs to.
In their process of looking through doors and trying to make sure everything's working, they let's see. Mud actually catches me right at the moment with them catching up onto me and drops a door onto one of them.
Okay. Yeah. I'm definitely down with that. So of the 3 chasing you, you hear a blast door come down, and there's the crunch of metal. You're not sure how much of him got crunched in the door, but like one of them was severely impacted. So you're now only being chased by 2. And their roll. So they got 2 advantages. So they're now 6 successes behind you. So they don't get to attack you this round. And I will use the 2 advantages to inflict a setback on you.
Okay.
And then it's your turn again. Oh, no progress. But you got 5 advantages.
Sweet.
Apparently the slamming door behind you got your attention too. You're
Yeah.
like, with that.
2 setbacks on them and 1 boost to me.
Their turn. Oh, it was a cancel, so that means escalation. So they closed to 5 successes away. They're going to use the 5 boosts to give them, or 5 advantages to give themselves 5 boosts next round.
All right.
All right. So you're now 1 success away from where you're going.
I give them 2 setback.
Okay. And they are okay. So you got 2. So you're now 5 successes ahead of them and 1 success away from where you're going. And their roll.
Oh,
Dang!
So they caught you. And they are going to spend 3 advantages to upgrade your next check to make it a red.
okay.
2 advantages to give you a setback, and 1 advantage to give themselves a boost.
Okay.
And then they're going to attack you. And so they got the boost. So they hit you for another 9 wounds, and then they'll continue to pass the boost along to themselves for the chase next time. Now you're only 1 away, but you now have a red and a black for this next roll. Come on, despair.
No, I gave them both setbacks. I didn't take any boosts.
So you don't get closer. So you got 3 advantages and a triumph.
If you want me to drop another door, just say the word.
Sweet. You know what? No, this is a triumph. Since I'm only 1 away, I can actually see where I need to be. The door is open, and there are many of the droids in there fighting with, unfortunately, a small contingency of Wookiees.
Okay. We'll say that you can see... so apparently from the damage you guys caused originally, there's going to be a half dozen Wookiees that were there working on stuff, and 4 of the droids were there overseeing them. Since the chips have been disabled, there's now a fight. So now and you're bringing 2 Wookiees with you. So now there's you and 6 Wookiees versus 6 K2SOs in fisticuffs. Here we go.
And I'm going to go ahead and give you
setback.
Another setback and me a boost.
Okay. And let's see. They are right up on you. So as long as they get any successes, they get to attack this round. They got some. Do you want to give them 2 setbacks with that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're attacking you, but they're going to get the total of 3 setbacks from things as you're like juking and jiving and whatnot, and they may hit the building next to you or something like that. So that's 3 setbacks, and then your armor, so it's total 4 setbacks for this attack roll. Wow, they hit you for 9 again.
I'm still standing.
Dang. With those 2 threats, what do you want to do?
I'll
setback, make them suffer strain, give yourself a free maneuver.
I'll give myself a free maneuver, absolutely.
Okay. So since we're 1 away and like there's actually a fight going, you can break out of the chase rules and you can just maneuver into the midst of the Wookiees basically if you want.
Perfectly. Perfect.
All right, so you move into the area where the blast damage is from the eye in the sky blowing up, and there's like debris of conduits and stuff that the damage from that explosive did, but it's not like venting to space level of damage. It's enough though that there's more repairs and first cleanup has to occur, and that's what the Wookiees were doing.
Awesome. Then on my turn now, I'm going to, on my short range comm, get a hold of Mud and Shiasa and save the Wookiees, open everything between here and there that doesn't have the Wookiees. And I'm just going to keep running, and I'm just running through the Wookiees and the rest of the droids, trying to, knowing that these Wookiees are about to go with me.
So you're trying to get the Wookiees to chase you, or the
I'm trying to
K2SOs?
draw some attention off of the security droids from the Wookiees onto me as I'm running right through the middle of their fight.
So, describing this scenario in my head, I don't see how you could, because like, here's a mechanic droid running through a barroom brawl between 6 Wookiees and 4 K2SOs. I could see a couple of them like glancing in your direction, but
then
I would think they would both sides would consider the other side the bigger threat and or point of interest at that moment.
Then I will use my maneuver to run up to them, and I'm going to use my action to dive into one of the security droids.
Okay. Attack a security droid as a brawl, or are you picking some debris up to hit him as a melee attack?
Brawl.
Okay.
As he's doing that at my end, having received his comms, I'll be getting ready to blow the airlocks.
Okay. So give me an attack roll. It'd be 1 red, 1 purple, 1 black, since it's a melee attack against a K2SO. You hit with 2 successes, so what's that damage?
It's a whole whopping 5.
All right. Well, you hit. Like you go for the basically like this particular K2SO is fighting a Wookiee in front of him type thing, and you're coming from like the back angle, and you go for the spear type maneuver, and you hit, and you just like stop, and he doesn't even seem to have noticed you impacted him. Basically, his soak is considerably higher than 5, so.
All right.
So, you still have the option of Zephyr and 2 strain to maneuver again if you'd like.
I shout at the Wookiees. Oh, sure, I'll suffer 2 strain, and
Okay.
I'll shout at the Wookiees.
Well, shouting, I mean, that's an incidental, so like if you just want
Okay.
to talk to him, then.
Well, okay. Then I won't take 2 strain, and I'll shout out, "Grab something now!" And if they grab onto a robot or they grab onto something on the wall, I don't care. We're all about to get vented.
Okay. All right, so
I gave them a chance.
the Wookiees, a couple of them look puzzled at the mechanic droid because, like, some of them are holding pieces of conduit already, and, like, one of them's, like, in a grapple with the K2SO as they're trying to, like, headlock and beat each other up, and they just kind of look at this mechanic droid running in the middle of things, not quite sure what to make of it. And then John hits the button. And I don't think they cover rules for what to do when you get a vacuum lock broken near you, but I'm going to say it's going to be an athletics check, probably difficulty 4 to keep from getting sucked into space. And if you already had a hold on something, then it's you get a like 2 boosts for having something to hold on to or something like that. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so you knew it was coming, so you got your 2 boosts and athletics check. Go for it.
I'm on.
All right, so simply because I don't want to roll 12 times to see about the 6 Wookiees and the 6 droids, some of both sides get sucked into space, basically. As you like go start to float out the open airlock, you see 2 Wookiees and 5 K2SOs like spiraling along with you. The Wookiees are still swinging at K2SOs as they're doing so because it's Wookiees.
It's the Wookiees.
I mean, you and the K2SOs obviously don't die when you're exposed to the vacuum, but you're still being like slowly spiraling out away type thing.
Do they have guns on them?
Nope.
Sweet, I do.
Oh, really? All right. So in the vacuum of space, all of a sudden, like there's this little ping.
And I'm using it to propel myself back toward the ship.
What kind of gun do you have?
It's a blaster pistol.
Okay. Well, that means it can theoretically hurt them because they have 8 soak and you have 6 base damage. So as long as you get 3 successes, then it would do damage to them, slowly but surely, but not reliably, basically. So with that, we're going to flash over to the the guys in the command controls tower over here. So you see 5 of the 6 K2SOs go venting out the airlock, along with 2 of the Wookiees and with your mechanic companion. What do you do?
I'm going to immediately start working on rerouting the navigational controls, because I'm hoping that the fact that the atmosphere is venting out of the rest of the ship will be a sufficient distraction to the biological crew members.
Oh, definitely.
Now, keep in mind, there's no biological Imperials. There's just the K2SOs on board.
Yeah, I'm literally thinking if I can get the navigation controls, we can jump somewhere else, contact the rebellion, then I can slam the airlock doors shut, and hopefully that'll be enough time. If I do it quickly enough, some of the people will survive. That's all I can think of doing at the minute.
Okay.
Or do we have to, or should we wait for Jeff to get back in to signal us that he's back on board?
It's going to take me a while to reroute the controls. He's got until I've completed that. We can't hang around for any longer, otherwise reinforcements could turn up. The security droids could seize control of the ship. I'm just going to have to pray and hope that he manages to get himself back on board before I manage to reroute these subroutines.
Okay. Does Jeff have a internal comm system?
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes. Okay. Yeah, Shalessa will actually say, let us contact us when you are on board, when you get yourself secured.
You hear slowly, pews! I'm on my way.
Make it quick, Jeff. As soon as I've rerouted these subroutines, we're going to have to jump. I can't even guarantee you how much time it's going to take. Just be as quick as you can. I don't want to leave you here.
I've gone from the super serious "Go Jeff" to now I'm just in space trying to use my blaster to get back to the ship.
Alrighty. So with that, I'm not going to make you make a roll. We've been at it for a little over 3 hours, so we're going to wrap the session there with the Alliance theme music kicking on as the Star Destroyer jumps to light speed. And we will talk about the tide changes off the air. Thank you, any viewers who are tuned in. Please check out the channels that the players mentioned, and check out our May the 4th game coming up next Thursday as our Rhodian Slicer friend here joins the others in the Inquisition Assault as they try to take out the base of the Inquisition. Have a good night.